My name's Chris Bussing. Welcome to my channel. It's committed to helping more people create lives of freedom and impact through success in tech sales and the pursuit of self-development. We've got an amazing guest today coming on for the second time, Kim Brown. She's a VP of Business Development at Absorb Software. She's the person that you're going to need to influence and get to buy in on hiring you if you're seeking an SDR role at a top company like Absorb. And she's going to share the answers to the test on how to think about SDRing your way and selling your way into a great SDR role at a top company. And also, once you get there, how to set yourself up to succeed as an SDR and get to the next level as an AE. Make sure to share this video with more people who could benefit from the message, like the video, because the algorithm loves that and we'll show it to more people. And get your pen and paper ready. We're about to have an amazing conversation. Kim, thanks so much for being here. Aren't you in Vegas right now with your new company?
Yes, I'm in Vegas right now. Woo! Yes.
That's a fun place.
It is. Like literally, I've got a wall of window that looks out onto the strip right now. I'm in the Encore and it's just crazy.
Are you able to flip your camera around, or are you at
oh yeah, don't mind the food that I have.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah. Oh wait, so I'm still here. Let me see if I can get the virtual background to go away. So
oh
yeah.
Nice. That is the ultimate adult playground, and the CEO of my company is based in Vegas.
Yes.
But you've got this new exciting opportunity
that I'm in right now. This is not normal. It was booked for me.
Nice. I love it. And so you had 3 offers on the table and you chose Absorb. Clearly this opportunity compelled you. So why did you choose this one, and what are they bringing you in to do?
Yeah. So Absorb is an amazing company. They are one of the things that attracted me to it was they're backed by a private equity firm that invested in the last company that I was at. So I knew some of the leadership team through that connection. I knew one of the board members, and I liked the idea of continuing a journey and being someone potentially in this portfolio of companies that's known for success in like the SDR, BDR prospecting world, and maintaining that. So also just knowing the track record already of the leadership and having some inside scoop that maybe I didn't have on the other companies, but also other people wouldn't have necessarily. Like I got to know that like the CEO and my future boss, my now boss, like had been at another company, had been at other companies within the same private equity firm. They've been carried from place to place. I'm like, man, like I could be part of that legacy. And that was really exciting.
Hey, real quick, that's such a good insight. Yeah. Is that if you look at the leadership at a company and their track record, that's something to bet on. And I joined my current company, Bestspin Global, that no one had heard of. And I left Google because I met the CEO. I asked some of the hard-hitting questions and I got some insight into the vision and his track record. And I was like, dang, like this is a leadership group I want to tie myself to. And so I just want to double click because you did have some insider information, but any high level guidance for the aspiring SDRs or folks early in their career that don't have the insider like insights and connections to at least like how to think about looking for the right leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. So a simple thing that you can do if you're not sure, like if the company website doesn't say who their like private equity or VC backer is, you could like literally Google the company's name, like Absorb LMS acquired. Just Google that and you will see news releases of the PE firms that acquired them last, as just like a quick hit to see like who owns the company that I'm interviewing at, if it's not like a big one like Google that you know. Then from there, you know who the PE firm is or the VC firm is, and you can go and look at their whole portfolio of companies. You go on their website, they list all of the companies in their portfolio that they own and invest in right on their website. That's just a quick way to see like who they invested in. Do I recognize any of these brands? Yes. I have a few friends that have like I kind of grew up in business with and now work for some private equity firms. And so I network with a few of them. It's a smart thing to do. Like check your network if you organically like know someone that says operating partner or principal partner at some sort of like financial firm. it could be a connection for you to like meet people and have an in. But I found a friend of mine worked at a company that like invests in Lucia. And I'm like, oh, Lucia's a data tool that that I use.
Yeah.
Okay. That actually, like, you might be surprised at some of the people and brands you recognize. That's just a quick place to start. They always have information on their leadership team, like who the partners are, what they're working on, and you can go crazy on LinkedIn seeing people's track record. So that'd be where I'd start. Do a quick Google search, dive into the website.
You mentioned people who you grew up with in business, and that makes me think of my buddy Tate, who I was with today, that I started as an SDR at Oracle with him 9 years ago. Now he's at AWS. I'm at an AWS partner, and we're doing deals together. That's like 9 years of a journey. And is that what you're referring to? Like, you've had people that you grew up in the business world once you got into sales, and just this overall space that now are a part of your network that can open doors. Could you paint a picture of how that kind of evolves?
Absolutely. Yeah. I say that so casually, and like newer folks don't probably know what that means. Like, we grew up together, but we started as SDRs together, or like SDR AE, like my first or second tech job, they also worked there. And then here we are like 15 years later. Like, I've got a handful of folks that one or the other of us have referred us to like the next job that we had. And so I've got good friends that I've worked at like 3 different companies with, or have made friends with from like being a vendor, and then like moved over to another company and used them as like a vendor because like we knew each other. We worked together before. And so I think it's just following people, and then also not being afraid to pull on those things. I think the only thing holding you back from using those connections later on is just your own, like, should I in-mail them or should I not? Like, just go for it. Everyone else is.
Yes.
Like,
I mean, that's what opens up a whole topic of, isn't a lot of sales about, and just in life, like success is being willing to ask, to be vulnerable and put yourself out there.
Yeah. Like, especially like when I was last on with you, like I was on the job hunt myself, and it's so funny. People say like, oh, you find out who your real friends are, when, when everything goes to shit. But like, really, you do. Like, there's people now that like, I'm like, wow, I've got like such great friends that are people that I've only known from jobs that I've had, that are the people that were in my corner that like I kept up with. We would have regular calls and check-ins, and they introduced me to people during my job search that I'm like, they don't owe me anything, but just because I'm asking, and then I'm finding out like, oh, wow, like just because I did good work with you, like I did good work, you did good work, we worked together, that means something to you now. And I can pull on you, and more than just people being overly generous that I wouldn't have expected. So I think there's something to be said for just like, people will care more than you think that they will. And all you really need to do is ask.
All you need to do is ask. Amen. And you know what? Some people tell me, Chris, is now a good time to get into tech sales. They're worried about the economy and things. But what you just described of the power of the network and over the long run, it to me says it's always a good time. And if you can get in there and build some good relationships and develop a decent track record, you don't have to be number one. Eventually, your network is the ultimate insurance policy to get on your feet very quickly and be able to navigate to better opportunities with more pay, to win new customers more easily, just drawing from the network. So it's just encouraging to see how your business relationships have evolved over time and where things can go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this one might be common sense. I'm not sure, but now on the other end where I'm hiring, the people, when I get a message referred from someone's name that I know, or get a note, like those are the messages that I pay attention to over all of the others. And so if someone's sending me like, hey, a note, even like Des, who's on and like in the chat, like she like, hey, like, are you still looking for this? I'm going to post this. I'm like, cool. I'm on the lookout for anyone that says like Des told them about the job. I'm actively looking for that because I trust her opinion. And like, so, and I know I'm not
high praise, by the way. That's very kind of you to say. And I'm sure that it really makes Des's day. And she said, go to the Win Buffet.
Yes.
Which, I don't know. Did you go?
I plan on it for sure.
Okay. Keep Des posted, and all of us. But oh, gosh, the food is so good. I went to Bacchanal with my CEO in our company, our final day of our offsite, and
man,
my eyes were bigger than my stomach. That's always how it goes, but it was amazing. So,
totally.
okay. You also, when we talked offline, you said you went to this opportunity, the smallest of the three, because of the upside and the freedom. And
Yeah.
so can you speak more to that? Because there's something enticing about going to the little guy or gal, and having a chance to really grow and make an impact. So tell us.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So when I got 3 offers in like the same week and they were all the
Wow.
exact same job, it was like, man, okay.
How did that feel?
So good. I'm like, all right,
I'm a
I
boss.
I am a baller. Okay, I got this. I know what I'm doing. Like, after like months and just being really human and vulnerable, like I've never had to like really job hunt before because of networking. And so this is the first time that I had to, and it took a few months, but I'm like, going for VP roles is harder.
Yeah.
It takes longer. But then I'm like, yes, this is awesome. And that's one of the things I love about being SDR and BDR doing this kind of work, is because I'm like, celebrate your wins. You book a meeting, you get an opportunity, celebrate that shit. Like,
Yeah. Celebrate. Oh
yes.
my gosh.
The best time to win is right after you've gotten a win.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about how to crush it as an SDR. And before that,
Yeah.
we're going to pivot into how to SDR your way
Yes.
and prospect and sell your way into a great SDR role, so you
Yeah.
can then crush it. So,
Yeah.
but hit on that point real quick.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
best way to, what did you say? Once you get a win, you basically want to double down. But what was the phrase, and explain
Yeah.
that concept?
The best time to win is right after you've just gotten a win. Like, it's something that's worked in every sales job that I've had. There's something you feel like extra like cocky and confident in a way, but if you're like, you tend to stress less when you're on the phones with someone.
Yeah.
like, oh man, I just won. I've got this. I'm actually good at this job right now. Okay, so then I'm less pressured in my next conversation with someone because I already had a win that day. But because I have less pressure, I'm actually conversing so much better with my prospect, and they're not feeling like, stop trying to sell me, because I'm actually not trying to sell them. I just feel like I'm a baller. Like, I'm a boss.
I don't know if you've ever seen Lonely Island. It's so goofy, but
Oh
like there's
no,
some
but
like a
I
boss.
need to. Yeah, I'm a
Yeah,
boss.
yeah. And so by the way, this is so funny. Scott, who goes by Operation Tech Takeover, says, "Bro, excuse my French, but bro,
Yeah.
I fucking love her energy. Let's go. You're
So,
balling right now."
thank you. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Scott, for being here, and to everyone who's here live
Yes.
and those who see this in the future. So, okay, let's talk about
Yeah.
how you SDR'd your
Yeah.
way into a VP role. And I think if you could, well, it's going to be helpful hearing from a VP how to do it as an aspiring SDR or AE as well. So
Yeah,
let's
I
talk about
think
that.
a lot of the things apply. Also, as I'm doing that, I also just want to quickly hit on, like, I chose Absorb of the 3. It was the smallest, but not just because I knew the company, but because I would basically, I'm here to start the entire outbound selling motion for the company.
Tell us what that looks like. Yeah, because we stepped over it where
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I
No, it
want
was
to
like,
know
oh,
like
that would be good
the
to
type of
mention.
freedom and impact you get to make. What does it look like? Really mean unpack building the outbound team?
Yeah, so Absorb is a learning management software. So if you've ever done any kind of online learning, like e-learning course, that's an LMS. They get most of their sales through inbound leads. Like, we grew 45% year over year over the last year, and 97% of our new logos came from marketing, like just people filling out forms. I want a demo, I want a trial, and like, which is great, but it basically, we're not doing any other kind of selling. And we're like, there could be so much more opportunity out there that we're just like is untapped by us because we're not even trying. So I'm basically here to, like, not just hire some BDRs, but like, what is our value prop? Who should we target? Why should we target them? What is our message to the world? Like, the entire everything. And then, like, how does the sales process change when it's a cold lead versus someone that raised their hand, I want a demo. And that was really exciting to me. Like, I think very rarely do you get someone say, like, hey, we will pay you to build exactly what you want to build around this thing. And so while the other opportunities, really great companies, it was going to be more of maintaining something that someone else built, which is cool. And I've done that a few times now. Like, wow, but to build something 100% my DNA sounds awesome.
Wow. I love the idea of that too. And once you build and grow here, it's like you can just replicate that like you have for established organizations. But anyone listening in who's an aspiring SDR who sees this in the future, what an opportunity it would be to work under someone like him, the type of leader that I would want to work for. And we'll talk more about some of the cool things that you mentioned about your own leadership style later on. Okay, cool. Let's talk about like actually what it means to SDR your way into a job. First of all, like why does that matter in this, as you described, flooded market? And then we can tactically look at like non-examples, good examples, and get a little more tactical too.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was job searching, and I'm seeing now on the other side, it's not really changed much in the last 6 months. There are so many people looking for jobs. A lot of there's been layoffs across the tech industry, but also there's people coming into the tech industry as well, people leaving. There's just a lot of talent, and there's more talent right now than I see jobs. I think for more entry-level spots, it's a little bit faster than my experience, but it's still, there's a lot of people. As an example, for the current rec I have to hire like 6 spots for BDRs, like I got 600 applications in a week. I don't remember at QuickBase getting 600 applications in a month for like our recs 2 years ago. So it just, we're getting like 4 to 5 to 6x the amount of applications than we used to get. So that means just there's more people. And if anyone out there looking for a job right now, you might be experiencing what I experienced. We're like, I'm applying to these jobs and hearing nothing, hearing absolutely nothing. And I'm like, I can't even get an interview. Like, I can't even meet a recruiter, like, because no one's responding to my application. And I'm super qualified, like, even for jobs that I was like overqualified for. And so that's what people are experiencing right now. Even people are probably experiencing that with my open right now. And I learned something really valuable of how application tracking systems work. So an ATS system, that's what every recruiting team is using. So if you're filling out an application for everyone out there, it's going to an ATS system.
Yes.
There's kind of 2 general flows of an application. One is the ATS system has some rules and filters for it that it automatically filters to the recruiter who they think should be interviewed. And in that scenario, the recruiter is usually only looking at the people that the ATS system flags that they should interview. And everyone else, the other 90%, is like not even touched unless someone gives the recruiter a reason to go look for that application.
So basically, and I've heard of this, there could be specific years of experience requirements or nuanced requirements that you might not have, even though you're fully capable of succeeding in the SDR role, but you automatically get ruled out and the recruiter will never see you.
Yeah, 100%. And another thing that they use, not just years of experience, but it'll do a keyword search based off of your job description and then your resume. So if your resume does not include keywords that they're looking for, it won't get flagged. A really valuable free tool that you can use to check your resume next to job descriptions, jobscan.co. They will allow you to like scan a number of like, put in a job description of a job you want to apply for, put in your resume. It'll tell you how good of a match your resume has for the average general ATS system.
Wow.
Fun tip for you.
That is a great tip. We're going to turn that into a little short nugget because I'd never heard of it. So is it jobscan.co?
Yeah, jobscan.co. Super easy to use, and they will spam you like crazy afterwards, like trying to upsell you for forewarning. But so that's one bucket. Like if you're not flagged by whatever filters and scanning that they do, you probably won't hear from anyone. Like for every 100 applications, they're probably recommending 5 to 10.
Yep.
The other bucket is the company doesn't have their ATS set up to do that scanning. So they've got people manually checking applications. And when you're getting hundreds of applications, like in a short period of time, it's just impossible for a recruiter to go through every single one. So what they're doing is going through the first ones or cherry picking or quickly glancing through, taking like literally 5-second pass on a resume, moving on, and like just cherry picking who to talk to. So as soon as I started to learn that, I'm like, well, shit. Like the only reason way I'm going to get seen in the masses is if I like get my voice out there somehow. And that's screaming for SDR work right there. I'm like, I'm really good at being persistent and getting my face in front of people. I've teach people how to do that for a living, or when I had a job, I was doing it for a living. You know, that was that was my thought. I'm like, I can do that. Like, so then I'm like, okay, so what do you do? I'm like, well, LinkedIn says you can, like, sometimes it recommends the recruiter, like, hey, here's the recruiter on this job. You can send them a message. I'm like, cool. But then sometimes recruiters like aren't like super responsive or whatever. Like, okay, well, the hiring manager, I know when I've gotten people flagged something to me when I was hiring, I just go tell the recruiter to talk to the person, and then they would. So I'm like, okay, well, if I was an SDR, I would be looking at this company that I want to be a customer, and I'd be trying to find the ideal types of titles that I want to prospect, and then I would prospect them and message them. Maybe I could do the same thing with my applications. So for every application, I would go and find people in the hiring team, the talent team, the HR team, and then anyone that I thought was in like the sales or marketing area and probably arena around would have some sort of impact in leadership around the job I was applying for. And I would message them.
So tell us the different types of titles that you would go for, because when we talked offline, it wasn't just the SDRs or, well, like sales related people, but other lines of business. So
yeah, absolutely. So in talent, sometimes it will post on the, if you're looking at LinkedIn applications, sometimes it'll post a recruiter on there. Sometimes that recruiter is not, the person that posted it is not always the one in charge of that rec. Sometimes companies just have like a single recruiter whose job it is to post all of the job postings. So like you want to go onto the website, again, just trying to break it down, like dummy proof this thing. You go on LinkedIn, you look at the company, click on where it says like 1K to 5K employees. Don't hit the people tab. That'll give you this whole like matrix of like what types of people are in the org. And like, I don't care. I want to see the actual people that work there. So click the little thing that says number of employees, and that'll take you to a list of people where you can do filters and search. I actually just created like a Boolean tab. So like an and or statement of titles into like keywords. Titles include talent, recruiter, HR, the word chief, because I wanted to talk to like chief revenue officers, chief marketing officers. I was looking for like sales development. In some companies, it could be either one, and both care about it. So even for SDRs, that would still apply. And then VPs of sales. So I would be looking for basically anyone in the HR talent arena, and then anyone in leadership, basically like senior leadership in sales and marketing.
So before we get to your messaging, what you sent for the SDRs out there, the aspiring SDRs, who are the key titles that you would have them focus on, including yourself, like a VP of business development, of course, where you can fast track them to the recruiter to have a conversation, even if the recruiter isn't getting back. But who are the personas they should focus on?
Yeah, so you should focus on, I would focus on even sales managers, sales directors, VPs of sales.
Okay.
I would even potentially look at demand generation directors, VPs. If sales development reports to marketing, demand generation is going to have a big influence on that. Demand generation is who funnels the entire inbound funnel of what goes straight to SDRs for inbound flow. And so like demand generation, sales development are like two sides of the same coin. So
interesting. Again, the distinction between demand gen and sales development, just one more time.
Yeah, demand gen is all of the inbound marketing tactics.
Okay.
All of the different ad incentives, different programs, all the different campaign things that marketing is doing to get more trial leads, more demo leads, more affiliate marketing leads, anything that's classified inbound. An inbound lead that an SDR is getting is coming from the demand gen team.
Okay.
So they very much care about hiring quality people to make sure that their leads are being managed well for all the money that they're spending.
Okay. And sales development and outbound, of course, are the proactive hunters, and really what you're building now at Absorb. So, okay.
Yeah.
So your messaging now,
Yeah.
you're coming in for landing a VP role, and then we can look at
Yeah.
messaging that, like, non-examples that you've received and examples of how
Yeah.
to frame a great message that will get you in
Yeah.
the door. So yeah.
Yeah.
Take it away.
So I'm sure there's probably like tests that someone with more time than myself could run on like amount of messages or the right size and length. For myself, I give a rule of thumb. For every application I send, I'm going to send between 5 and 10 in-mails. So trying to think through like recruiting and talent people, and then like line of business leader, I'm going to try to do 50-50. So I'm going to try to guess who like the recruiter of this role is. Oftentimes they can say like lead recruiter for go-to-market. I'm like, ding, 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 that's my person. Then anyone in leadership over the talent team or the HR team, because talent rolls up to HR. And then the various like sales leaders or marketing leaders that I'm looking at. So I'm going to send between 5 and 10 in-mails. And then I'm going to send at least 2 to 3 emails to those same people.
Okay.
So for the emails, another quick tip would literally type into Google, absorb LMS email format. A couple websites are going to pop up for you, and they're going to tell you the most common naming convention of the email for that company that you punch in. So whether it's first initial last name at absorblms.com or first name.last name. So the 2 companies that I found on the most reliable and do testing are Rocket Reach and Neverbounce. They both charge, but if you Google it, it'll give you the results for free just from the Google search. Quick.
Cool.
Tip. Yeah.
Great tip.
Yeah. I'm all about free hacks. That'll give you like a couple of things to think through, and like, but like if you're going to send emails, and I think that is like the tick, like I'm now multi-threading. I'm touching you on LinkedIn. I'm touching you on email. I'm getting your attention. So I'm not emailing everyone. I don't want to cloud with spam. So I'm going to send at least one to someone, the best person in recruiting I found, and one to who I think the hiring manager is. And if I have any doubts on who either of those people are, that's where I do at least a third. Like, one of these 2 people is the recruiter. One of these 2 people is the hiring manager.
Yeah.
So,
and they can point you to the right people.
Yeah.
They like appreciate your intention and your initiative.
Yes. And then the message. So I started doing that, but it wasn't until I changed my message that like I started actually getting impact. And I try to put myself in the mind of the person hiring, like, why should they talk to me? They are probably getting a lot of applications. You can even see on LinkedIn, over 200 applications on this application. I'm like, cool. Well, yeah. How do I stand out? I'm like, well, why do they want to talk to me? So it works the same in SDR messaging. This person doesn't know you. They're getting a ton of in-mails, a ton of emails. How do I get their attention? And so in some of the resume work that I did, I hate objectives and resumes, just because I'm like, my goal is for you to hire me. Boom. But I'm like, cool. But I did have highlights of like, here's 3 powerful statements of why I am a rock star. Just like things that I've done, like getting over 60 SDRs, hired to like promoted to AE. When I was at QuickBase, I started at QuickBase when they were $100 million in revenue. When I left, they were $250 million in revenue in 3 years span of time. So I came up with a couple of these power hitting, like, here's some stats of why I'm amazing, one-liners. I would take those one-liners and I'd put one of them in my in-mail message. Hey, I'm proactively reaching out to you about your job. I'm a badass because of this. Who do I talk to about this job? As soon as I started changing that up, I'm like, I'm trying to give you, of course I'm interested in the job. That's why I applied for it. Okay, but why should they talk to me? Here's an evidence of proof point of why I'm awesome. And you should want to talk to me.
So the paradigm shift that anyone can apply in their job hunt is, you'll show interest, but they know that you're interested. You just give a proof point of like, value, producing results that are relevant to the role. And I'm curious, like, it's for the SDRs out there, and maybe they haven't been an SDR in tech sales yet, but they might have like been a loan officer, or they did some type of sales role. So maybe they didn't, but like, any thoughts on like the type of proof they might frame?
Yeah. So I think anything where, like, even if you weren't an SDR before, you're brand new, why do you want to be in sales? Usually, like, the people that want to be in sales have some sort of thing. Like, I had a friend that worked in an admissions office at a college, and they realized how close that would be to like tech sales. And so like they brought in a stat of how many students in the last year that they got signed up to enroll in their college.
Yeah,
That's great.
that's sales.
Yeah, that's selling. Even if it's stuff like sports achievement or like other awards and other things, something that like speaks to your like excellence, and it doesn't have to just be sports. I was a band geek, so
Yeah. Yeah, this is maybe a quick opportunity to describe the qualities that are needed to succeed as an SDR, because it might give people ammo, right? Like, oh, you need to be goal-oriented and gritty, coachable. So this will help with proof points. So from your vantage point as Mrs. VP, what are the qualities you look for?
Yes, Ms. Not married.
Okay, shoot. Yeah,
all good.
I'm not married either, so that's why I don't even know how this works.
Yes,
so
all good. But so good. Yeah. So some qualities that I look for. Anyone who's like watches this that has worked for me knows like the one thing I always say, and that's self-awareness. And I don't hear it as often as I wish I did in like SDR hiring, but self-awareness is like this special skill that if you have it, it can make you dynamite in sales. But it's really hard to teach. You can teach it, but it's easier if you have it already. So signs of self-awareness. One, if you can coach yourself and like you can hear when you need to kind of step up or step back, like let loose or dial in more, like that is like, that's great, because it means I can tell you things, but you're probably actually going to retain it. And I'm not going to need to like sit next to you every day to make sure you're doing your job, or like, you really need to make more calls now. Like just, you will know that.
You
and
will
that's
manage
like,
yourself.
Yes.
And push yourself.
Yes, exactly. But then also when you're on a call with a prospect, usually those same types of people can hear like, ooh, this guy's not feeling what I'm saying right now. I should change how I'm talking to him. And being able to on the fly change some of your message. So that one is harder to quantify, but if you have examples that are coming to mind as I'm talking about that, of like ways that you've adapted to different things or managed to coach and manage yourself in any situation, in jobs, in school, that'd be incredibly valuable.
Yeah. So, and you could say like, I got to be careful how I frame it, but like, let's say I really pride myself in being self-aware and trying to continually improve. And ideally they can give like a quick proof point of that.
Yeah.
In a relevant scenario. And you know what, there's a SDR that I've been working with, and I noticed we were doing a cold call role play and her tone was a little too high pitched. And that, it's like, I've done it. We've all done it.
Yes.
She coached herself before I had to say it. She's like, you know what? I realized I did that too. That is an example of it.
It's a common, like even like it may not be a number, but like I've successfully coached myself into better results in this area.
Yeah.
Like,
I love that.
That'd be awesome.
Yes.
That'd be great. I love that. And also, I know people hate listening to themselves and recordings of themselves. You really should. I have like a musical background, and so I was very used to listening to the sound of my own voice or like vocal training.
Cool.
So I've been like very, very familiar with it. But like, if you're not, like, look into that stuff. Like, it's really cool, because from that, like, most people when they're nervous, their voices go higher, the voice gets a little shaky. And I've struggled with that throughout my entire career, and like actually using vocal techniques to like dial it back.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm going high and forward and like super shaky. How do I get back and more grounded? And like, even just like talking even more in the back of my throat to like, as a tactic to like.
Yes.
feel less jittery and
I'm,
it makes a
I'm
difference.
going into my chest right now. My
Yes,
chest.
exactly. Yeah.
But there is
Yeah.
something to be said from the head voice and the chest. And I'm sure
Yeah.
it's the same with singing. And I think it's so
Yeah.
cool you have a singing background. And
Yeah.
last week's guest was a guy, Victor Antonio. He's a keynote speaker in sales.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
he described learning how to sing your song as a cold caller.
Nice.
And we're going to talk about cold calling later, because last time you crushed it on cold calling. Everyone loved your approach. And in fact, we should touch on briefly how to cold call an executive like yourself. But Victor described it as learning how to sing your song and how it just kind of automatically will flow from you. And clearly you went from
Awesome.
singing, to actual songs to
Yeah.
sales singing.
It's the same, the head voice, chest voice, like
Yeah.
even like trying to just blend it. It's like I'm trying to get there. That works. But so if you guys are interested in learning that, just like Google anything around like vocal coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting insight, and we'll talk more about the interview process later. I mean, this is a power-packed interview, and we're going to go longer than the typical interview. We had agreed on that. But these insights right here on tone are going to be helpful in the cold call role play in that interview, part of the interview process, and obviously as a SDR making cold calls. So, okay, in addition to self-awareness,
Yes.
what are some other like clear things you look for that are just absolutely necessary?
Yeah. The two other things that are like, if I had to pick three, it would be self-awareness, then grit, resilience, work ethic is one.
Yep.
And then natural curiosity. So people that are naturally want to know more information than what I'm giving you. And that natural curiosity drives them to want more information and to drive more. There's nothing I hate more than an interview when they only ask me one question or no questions at all.
How am I doing so far?
You're doing amazing. You're doing amazing. You're peppering with questions.
But you were getting to a good insight about interviewing. And we might as well address it now, right? Because it's fun. We can dance in different directions in these conversations. You're telling me that the worst thing you could do in an interview for an SDR role or any sales role is not have questions. Like, tell us a little more about that.
Yeah. Well, one, like selling, the first part of selling early on, after you get through the pitch, is all about question asking. And if you've never heard this term yet, discovery. You're going to hear discovery a lot as you start a sales career. And discovery is basically like, okay, I've got this person teased and interested potentially in what we do, but I need to like find out more about them and the problems and the pain that they have and what their work is like, so I can figure out how to better customize our pitch and our solution for what they actually need.
Yes.
And so it's asking questions. And so in an interview, we use the questions that you ask us as an indicator for how curious you are and what types of questions you're thinking about. We always expect there's going to be probably like minimum of 3 basic, like everyone asks this question: what's your leadership style? What's the culture like? What does my first 30 days look like? Like those are ones I expect. Cool. But when someone gives me one that's like not one of those basic, like, here's the top 5 questions you should ask in any interview questions, like I'm always like, okay, cool. I'd love to know which family member told you to ask that or how you came up with that.
What's an example of a question that would get you to react that way? Like, oh, wow, that's different.
Yeah. I wish I had my interview notebook, because I usually write them down. But recently I had someone ask me, like, what kind of creativity could I expect, like openness to creativity could I expect if I accepted this job?
Oh, that is so nice. I love that. I've never heard that question.
I know. I was like, I probably have heard maybe something similar. I don't know. Yeah. I love the question that does just like, what are you like? I love when people ask, like, what do you need on the team right now? What are you looking for? The creativity question came from someone that was basically like coming from a job where like, this is what you have to do, and you can only do it this way every time, or you're going to be penalized. And he was curious. I'm like, what do you have to try new tactics and new things? And I'm like, I love that. And you're qualifying me as much as I'm qualifying you. Like,
that's exactly right. That's where my head went, is they are qualifying you as well. And that says a lot about their own self-esteem, you know, and that they're
You
being,
change
and also
your
that they're being intentional about their search. They're not just trying to go for any company. I'll never forget here at Bespin, my current company, that I was doing some interviews on behalf of the company, like early rounds. And I asked, oh, how did you hear about us? And the guy's like, yeah, I had a virtual assistant from a different country just send out a bunch of applications and I found you. And I'm like, oh, interesting. And I'm like, wow, like there's no intention.
Yeah.
And I know that's a segue, by the way, for us that you had told me that you look for people who are highly intentional and have a really good reason for wanting to work at your company and for you. So do you mind expanding on that a little bit?
Yeah. When we had someone actually like totally like surprised, like our recruiter, like just knocked her socks off. They follow me on TikTok.
Cool.
And like they saw one of the posts I did about like just interview tips recently.
And what's your TikTok? Everyone follow Kim.
Yes, Kim B Sales. So
Kim B Sales.
Yep.
Okay. No, just literally just together, Kim B Sales.
Kim B Sales.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. You can imagine there's a lot of people with the last name Brown.
Yeah.
In the universe.
Yeah, for sure.
So hard to nail that one, but yeah, Kim B Sales. So follow me. I'm trying to post more and I'll
no, you definitely have to. You've got so many gems to offer, and like I appreciate you bringing that to this conversation, but the world needs you to put more content out. It's so many good nuggets. So
thank you.
I'm excited for it.
Yes. But other intentional things, I think some of it's like as soon as you hear it and you ask it early, like, hey, we ask you some basic things like what got you excited about applying for this role? And if we're not just one of the many that you're applying to, and like, I'm familiar with your technology, or I love learning management, or I saw your LinkedIn and you've got some great content, like, and yes, flattery works, but also
it does, by the way. Yes, I had someone flatter me about my YouTube channel in an interview, and I was feeling so good, and I was like, you know what, I like this person.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, you know what, and like I can test them later to see like, you know, which article they read or which post that they looked at, you know. But it's like at least the intention of that and doing the research is huge. Even I was in an interview today where the person like saw that we had multiple product offerings, and so they actually wrote a pitch for like top 4 products that they were the most interested in. I'm like, cool.
Boom, that's proactive.
But like
they want to be there. They're not there by accident. That's music to my ears. So
so those are just a couple examples. Like, because again, it is flooded. So I'm looking for people that like want to be here, that stand out, that are more than the status quo. And I think that that's like being naturally curious, asking good questions. Even if you've asked the questions in a screen prior, if you're in the next step, there's usually more people that weren't there before. Ask the same questions again. You don't get points docked for asking a question more than one time.
Hey, that's actually good to hear, because I've heard some folks say you do. And that's good to validate. No, like, because you have more, like, I'm talking about people that more so they're not like VPs like yourself. So it's like, I would heed your perspective more than anything. And especially if they're like obviously asking the same questions to the same person, but if you're in a different round with different people, you know, it's different stories.
Like some of the best people like do like, hey, Kim, I know our last conversation I asked you about this. I'd love to hear from the rest of the people in the room.
Yeah, there we go.
That's intentional. 1, and 2, I'm like, cool. And you're recycling a question, which is smart. And I'm not thinking that you basically have nothing to say.
And you're showing some awareness. I know I asked you this, but I want to get some other perspectives. And it's good to seek, that's curiosity in action, seeking other perspectives. So you know what? We have a question from Scott that I noticed that I just didn't want to step over.
I saw that too.
And then we can get to you had some great examples, like non-examples and good examples of messages for networking. Then we'll flow in interviewing, which will be fun. So I guess Scott's grinding. He's at a second job, and so looking at breaking into tech sales, but with the search that you mentioned, Kim, can that work with the free version of LinkedIn, or does it have to be premium? I think you were describing Boolean searches, looking at the employees, for those of us newbies trying to break in.
Yes. So you can do the searches. Totally free. Now, depending on how big your network is on LinkedIn, so how many people you're connected to, you may not be able to see everyone in that company the same way you would if you did have premium, but you will be able to see a good number of people. So finding key people to connect with to grow your network is huge. Don't just flippantly like connect with 1,000 people, but like pick some strategic like sales influencers, people at the different companies to connect request with them just to grow your network so you see more people on the free version. If you can afford the like 20 to 40 bucks a month to just get premium for 1 month of your job search, it's worth it because you're going to get free email credits. You can do month to month. So you can just pay for it for 1 month, try to squeeze the orange, see if it's worth the 40 bucks.
Yeah.
Again, breaking it down for everybody, for those that haven't used LinkedIn Premium before or Sales Navigator at your company. So for every InMail that you send, if someone accepts it and replies to it, you get the credit back.
Cool.
So I think the premium version that I had was the one that gives you 15 InMail credits a month. So basically you have to be very strategic with them. But if I send one and they reply, I get that credit back and I can use it again in month for someone else. So great. The other thing is other people with premium will sometimes, it's not always consistent, but oftentimes other people with premium, if you go to like message them before you've connected, a good number of those people will actually be, you'll be able to message for free on premium, which is pretty exciting. So say I'm on a company, I've applied there, I want to message a bunch of people, I'm pulling up like the 10 people I want to talk to. And if I have premium, I'm going to choose maybe one person per application that I'm going to InMail. And the rest I'm going to connect request with a message, which limits you to 200 to 300 characters for the message you can put in. So you've got to be really crafty with what you put in. But the first thing I do is I actually check, you can actually hit message on every single person. It either says message right next to connect or on the 3 little dots next to their photo, you can click it and message is there. I check every single person's message to see if it gives me an InMail credit send or if they give me a free message. So if I have LinkedIn Premium, other people with Premium, I can send a message for free.
Okay.
Which means I don't have to have InMail credits for every single person I'm going to message.
Gosh, Kim, you got to blow up this TikTok of yours.
Yes.
These nuggets, because Scott says, thank you so much. Gem emojis. We got quite a few in there. I don't know how many, a little under 10, 6. And that's a fire tips. And it really is. So great question, Scott. It does definitely, it's helpful for you, for me, for all of us. So keep the questions coming. It would be good to look at some examples on messaging. And the one other thing I would say, Kim, in my experience is some people, it's crazy, they could get a job in 2 weeks, but that's an anomaly. I just feel like a 3 to 6 month timeline, especially if you're making a full-blown career change, is maybe more realistic. And I've seen some that take a year, and it's not about how long it takes, but ultimately getting there at a company you love, set up for success. I mean, it'd be interesting to get your thoughts like on a realistic time frame of breaking in. But more importantly, I bring that up in saying that I think that Sales Navigator or the premium, it's a worthy investment, even for 3 months. If we think of a 3-month timeline to get some real traction, like it's $60, I think. And if it helps you get in the door in a market that's so flooded where like you need to get referrals, like I think that is a worthy investment.
100%. And Scott, if I'm going to look for your message, if I might not have replied yet, I will reply to give you that credit back for your comment there.
Cool.
This is last note on me.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me give it back to you.
Yeah. And so I guess I shared some perspective and a question was nested in there to get your thoughts. But again, I think that like 3 to 6 months is a realistic timeline. But what do you think? Because some people have these expectations, like I'm just going to change careers and get in so quick. And they see people that get in there, they're in 2 weeks and they're like maybe just discouraged when it takes a little longer.
Yeah. I don't know like I would say that's the exception and not the rule. If someone's getting a job in 2 weeks or a month, they are the exception. If anyone's ever read or watched, he's just not that into you. Like the exception, not the rule. The rule is 3 to 6 months for sure. Also, it's not always consistent, but sometimes the people that get a job in 2 to 4 weeks, I see a lot of those people like tend to be looking for a job pretty quickly after that.
Yeah. Oh gosh, Kim, I've seen that where people, it's all exciting, they get a job, but
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, oh, I was terminated because like
Yeah.
they're went in a different direction, or it turns out it wasn't what I thought it was. So it's like going back to being intentional, and it's not always a good thing if you get a job real quick. Like,
Yeah, it's
you
not.
know,
Be thoughtful. Another tip that I'd love to give, and I'm going to drop the name in the chat here. So I joined a free group that I've kind of referred to as my job search support group. There's a book called Never Search Alone. I should put that in there, written by Phil
cool.
Terry. And it basically is this kind of like, it's like a handbook of like how to like basically find your right job market fit. And also he has this thing called job search councils, which is basically a group of like 4 to 6 people that are all in a similar place as yourself, looking for a job, whether you don't have a job and you're looking for one, or you have a job but you want a new one. And if you want, you can go on his website and they will place you in a group for free with people of a similar stage of life
Wow.
as yourself. And so I did this, and I was with a group of 4 other people where we were all basically in tech, in like director to VP level work, and we all
Yeah.
basically were searching together. Our networks multiplied by like 5x because we were all there. We all went through the book together and like basically bouncing ideas off of each other. Now I've got this amazing group of like friends that like we've lived life together the last 6 months. If you're looking for a job, I would highly recommend going in. There's really helpful tips that like the book has, but also just the community of having people like bounce ideas off of that like is just really helpful. You're not in it alone. And you should check it.
That's brilliant. That the job search council.
Yeah,
And so I
job
see in
search.
there with Phil Terry, Never Search Alone, multiplying
I'm
your
not saying
networks,
this kind of thing. That's just because I honestly
getting accountability, being encouraged. Like that's so cool. And that you did that. And you were able to also find people at your level too. So regardless of your experience.
Yeah,
Man.
they do a really great job of like placing you with people in a similar place as you. Like you fill out a form on their website, and like I was placed in like less than 2 weeks, and
Oh my gosh.
everyone's just volunteer. Everyone's just helping people find jobs.
Yet another gem. Throw another gem emoji in there. Okay, so Kim, and the fact that you have been going all day with your new company in Vegas, probably exhausted, powering through to bring this value. Thank you
This was
so
the best
much.
part of my day.
So, I mean, this is for me too. It's so fun. So,
Yeah.
okay, I'd love to see your examples.
Okay.
You took the
Should I
time.
start with the good ones, my version, or the examples of what?
You know what? I'm gonna ask for all of it, like
Okay.
the non-examples, to see what
Yeah.
not ideal looks like, and then good examples would be awesome.
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah.
And forewarning, anyone who's ever worked with me is going to be like blown away at how plain and simple these slides are. I normally put a lot of design effort into these.
I want to see some of your best slides. Then you sounds
Yes.
like you're really good with design. So
yes, I will share you with you later because I
for next our next podcast, I will give you a bunch of lead time.
Yes, actually, if we wanted to do one on PowerPoint tips.
We should do it. I mean, like I feel we're lucky to have you. So
thank you. I love teaching people like there's simple things that PowerPoint can do that like anyone can like be an artist. So
all right, Scott threw in a bunch of more gems as well. So awesome, Scott. Thank you.
so good, so good.
Yeah.
All right, let me share my screen here.
Cool. All right, let me add it to the stage. Okay. And if you could just read through as well. Yep.
Yeah. So here's some screenshots. I've done my best to white label all of them. So if anyone watching recognizes these messages, apologies. You're not called out specifically, just me. But these are like 5 just quick examples of in-mails or connect requests that I've gotten from my open jobs. And I wanted to show these to you all because they're all fairly similar in what they're saying. So this big one, clearly the person used an in-mail credit on me. Feel very honored. Thank you. But basically, like I recently applied for the business development role at Absorb and noticed your involvement in the hiring process, noticed your website, caught my eye. Nice plug. Cool. I've gone through the job description and I'm confident my experience aligns with the role. After reading some insightful posts, I'd love the opportunity to join Absorb. Okay, cool. Nice message. Here's another one. I saw your post about the open BDR role and I think I'd be a great for the team. I'd love to learn more. Hey, Kim, notice that there's an open BDR role at Absorb. Would you mind setting aside 15 minutes to see if my skills could be a potential fit? Hi, Kim, are you still looking for a business development specialist? Hey, reaching out about the business development role posted. I applied on posting and figured I'd drop you a note. I love that people are sending me notes. That is intentional. The problem is, here's 5 examples of probably like the over 50 to 100 I've gotten for the job that's posted.
Yep.
I've gotten like 600 applications. I've gotten like literally 50 to 100 messages look just like this. And so for the idea of SDR your way to the job, well, everyone is sending very similar messages. And like this big one, like here, is probably the closest one to actually getting my attention. Because
that seemed like the best, Kim, but go ahead.
Yeah, but even so, like, I'm confident my experience aligns well with the job. What is your experience? Don't tell me what you're going to tell me. Just tell me.
Interesting.
Yeah. So like, I kind of want to know, like, how do you cut through this noise? Everyone is sending these messages. Okay, obviously you saw the role. Obviously you think you'd be a good fit. Otherwise you wouldn't have applied. Okay, but why should I talk to you out of everyone? Everyone that's applied thinks that they would be a good fit. So why should I talk to you? That's what I'm missing, basically. And then if I look at all 50 to 100 people that have pinged me, if I go look at your resume, I'm then like, okay, well, at least that cuts down from 600 to 100. Cool. But then I'm looking at your resumes as well, and not all the resumes actually indicate why you want to be in sales. So this is where that one-liner or that power punching hit of like why I should care about you could be really important. And I don't just say this to like cut people down. I was sending messages very similar to this when I was in the early part of my job search journey, and I wasn't hearing back from anyone. I wasn't getting people responding. And I'm like, I need to figure out how to cut through the noise. So here's a couple examples. Apologies for the yellow. This is from an Excel sheet that I had, and I'm just like quickly copy and paste. But these are the 2 versions that I iterated on, many, many different types of versions, A, B, C, D, tested the shit out of them.
Yep.
The connect request, I made sure it had like just under 300 characters so that I could fill in the role in the company field for that specific company for each person, and then maybe trim a couple places if it was over the 300 character limit on a connect request message. But here, hey, I just applied for the role. I'm proactively reaching out to you. In my last role, I led the revenue generating sales development and RevOps teams at QuickBase that grew QuickBase from 100 million to 250 million in 3 years as the VP of sales dev. Would you be open to connecting me in the right spot? So a couple of things here. I'm not saying that I would be a good fit. I'm not saying that I saw the role. It's inherent in those things by the message. Like, I get it. I'm not going to waste character counts by saying that. I am going to try to your role. Yeah, I just applied for your role. I'm proactively reaching out. Very quickly, I'm just trying to stroke your ego. I think you're the right person. And if they're not, they will tell me, which is a response, which is a win. If someone says, I'm not the right person to reach out, hey, they responded to my message. That's awesome. Okay, I could probably find out who it is. Or better yet, they might have actually already told the recruiter or tell me in their reply who it is. And that actually would happen more often than just, I'm not the right person, nothing else. So by me saying I'm proactively reaching out to you strokes the ego, but it also, if they're not the right person, it like gets people like, oh, go talk to this person. Like, great, thank you. That's what I wanted to know, who the right person is. Then here's the reason why they should care. This is like that power punching statement of like, here's something that I've done. This is why it's relevant. It's not just, I think I'd be a good fit. I'm like, you should think I'm a good fit after reading this line. That's it.
Less is more, and showing the proof that you can deliver. Sales is an outcomes business, whether you're at a VP level or an SDR role.
Yeah.
And maybe you could say something like, as a loan officer, I always exceeded outbound cold call metrics and closed like $1 million in loans, like whatever figure. It could be 100,000 in loans. It's like, boom.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and that, so that might be an equivalent for someone who doesn't have quite that. Yeah, I mean, that's incredible, by the way. 100 million to 250 million. I could have, that'll be on a future thumbnail. This thumbnail, I said, like, got 60 SDRs promoted.
Yeah.
So,
And I got that from the CRO at QuickBase. He's like, here's here's a stat for you that you should use in your resume. I'm like, thank you. Taking that. So if you have previous bosses or leaders you've worked for that are in your corner, ask for tips like that. And I've had people ask me that, hey, what should I put on my resume that we did together? Easy way to get like a quick power punch one-liner.
Yeah. Another power punch one-liner. Scott says, I just want to have like video podcasts, all that on repeat, just watching her teach. So again, you're about to blow up, but okay. So the in-mail now, I'm starting to read ahead. I see some things like
also, I do want to say the call to action here is pretty important. Would you be open to connecting me in the right spot? It's such an easy ask. It is so much easier of an ask than can I have an interview?
Yeah.
But it's easy to reply to. It's light, and that's what I want at this stage. I want quick yeses and quick wins to the right person. The number of people that would accept my request and either reply back that they, like I already said it, but like they would forward me to the recruiter, or like, hey, I'm not the right person, or hey, thanks for this. I just let the recruiter know they should talk to you. Just from that ask, because it's not too big. They don't know me. They don't know me for anyone. So I can't ask for the moon. I'm ask for a small thing that gets me in the door, and it would give me more than what I asked for.
Yeah, I love that. I can't ask for the moon, at least not right away.
Yeah.
So you're reducing the friction to responding.
Yeah.
Making it easy to respond. And this applies to emailing prospects once you're an SDR, right? And we had talked before about the purpose of messages. You really, reframe my perspective. Like, you're not trying to get the sale all in one message. You're not trying to get hired in one message. That's impossible. You're trying to get an open acknowledgement, a read, and a reply, right? And if you want to riff on that anymore, feel free.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, your number one goal of an email or an in-mail is to get it opened.
Yep.
Because nothing else can happen if they don't open it. Like, simple as that.
I'm glad you stopped me. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Also, for in-mails, my favorite subject line, I got this from one of the directors from my last team at QuickBase, Chris McNeil. No subject.
What is it about that?
Because it, like, people don't know what it is.
And it's curious.
They open it, and it comes across more casual and like gets them to click it.
Yeah, and I noticed that connecting me in the right spot. The word "spot" sounds like it's kind of cute. It's like casual. It's like, just the right spot. Like, I like that.
So. I'm reaching out to you, ego stroke. I'm a badass, and then hey, where's the right spot?
Yeah, and when you said like you mentioned before, you'd say I'm a badass because I assumed you didn't literally say that.
Yeah, but I mean, you could.
you could though, and you know what? People will respect that. They'll have I would have an admiration for someone who had the guts to say that. Actually, I'd be like, wow, this person, like, it's kind of adorable.
So good. Well, and then to your point of in my in-mail message, I didn't say badass, but I did put like
fierce
one-liner. I'm a fierce, process-oriented operator and developer of talent.
That's a good line right there. I'm a fear. That's unique.
Thank you.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah. Just like, I'm just gonna say it. You know,
I mean, you can apply that type of language too as an SDR. Like, I'm a fierce, like, outbounder, not afraid to pick up the phone and double dial. Like, I don't know, like something like that. Shows passion.
Totally. Like, even if you just said, like, I'd be willing to make 100 dials a day on your team.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Like, I had one person like email me and say like they do a bunch of like others, like they create a website and do all this stuff, and it was a little overboard, but I did reply to it. I'm like, yeah, dude, like, maybe don't do that much work. We don't need you to.
But you know what? It's like I
like the moxie.
You replied and they showed initiative. So it's I mean, it's better to try and go above and beyond and a little try hard than not. And I mean, I've been guilty of being, I think we talked about this one off, like a little bit try hard. Like I told you the story when I was at Google Cloud for the cognitive ability interview round, where they asked some interesting consulting like questions. And I ended up making it through, but the hiring manager told me, Chris, like I asked for feedback. He said, I feel like you tried to force it a little too much and try too hard to show you knew Google Cloud and all these things. And there's something to be said for it, like not being try hard, but also I still made it through, and it's definitely not going to prevent you. But any other thoughts on the concept of like, because you've seen some folks too that maybe were trying a little too hard?
Yeah, I think some of the trying too hard that is a turn off for me is when they have every answer just so rehearsed and you can tell. So like if I feel like something is very rehearsed and they're saying the same thing to everybody, I will think of or pull from my like bag of interview questions of like something that is hard to have a canned answer for.
Yeah.
And then when they're giving the answer of the question that they want to answer versus what I actually asked, or like,
oh
yeah,
I'm not listening then.
You're not listening. I'm like, or even I ask a simple question that has like basically like, are you a book or a movie person? Okay, don't overthink it, just first response. And then the second part is, okay, cool. I'd love for you to tell me about a good book you've read recently or a good movie you've watched recently. Tell me about it and why I should watch it in like 2 or 3 sentences. I just want to see something that you like, that you're passionate about, and see how quickly you could get me excited about it as a translatable skill for like how, if I taught you about our product, how you might be able to get someone excited about our product. But it never fails when I ask, are you a book or a movie person? Like, they're like, I'm a book person because I love to better myself every day. I'm just like, even so, I've started.
No, if it's authentic, it's good, but it's like, it sounds like there's almost like they're trying to tell you what they think you want to hear.
What I want to hear. And I'm like, I don't want to hear what you think I want to hear. I actually am asking this question for completely different reasons than you think I am. Like, why don't you just like,
what if they're like screw books and movies? I like telenovelas. Like, I don't know. Like,
I'd be like, cool. Tell me why I should watch telenovelas. Yeah. Or like, if you're into parkour, like, tell me why I should get into parkour.
And so
it could be anything.
And so it's definitely revealing that when you ask these questions, what do you like and why? You said you're looking for the capacity to be passionate. And I think you had told me in a different conversation that your job is to help get them passionate and up to speed on the product, but they're the ones who need to provide the passion. Is that basically what you're saying? Like, what do you really, again, looking for?
And I'm going to stop sharing if that sounds good. I've got chat.
Yeah. Okay. Are we good on that? Like,
we're good on that.
Okay, cool.
If you want to talk,
that was awesome, by the way.
Okay,
and that on the second one, the fierce part was particularly a great nugget.
It's not perfect, but it's like, it's a starting point.
Yeah.
Have fun with it. But what was your question that you just asked before?
So when you're asking the questions like about interests of the candidates, and you're getting at an underlying quality and behavior, which seems to be passion, and just speak more about like the intention behind that. And
and some of that may be unique to like some of the interview processes I run, but I don't think so. I've worked with a lot of like talent partners, and they ask similar things, and I don't care what you're into, like, to everyone, to each their own. Like, I work with a lot of people that are really into sports, and I grew up with like an all-girl family where we were not athletic at all. So like, I don't relate on that, but I get it. I get why people are excited about it. So I don't care what it is you're about, but you talking about something that's exciting to you, I could see like how that translates. So if someone was telling me about like why telenovelas are so amazing, if I could genuinely like leave that after 3 sentences, be like, maybe I should watch telenovelas. Then I'm like, okay, wow, imagine if I could tell them how to sell our product. We could get people wanting to like try our product. Like, just because it's something that they know. And if it's something like a book or a movie or something, like an activity that you're interested in, you don't need any prior knowledge to be successful at it. It's actually for the candidate's benefit that I like ask questions like that in my mind, because like, yes, Also love Jane the Virgin, the show, to Des in the chat. Caught my eye. But I'm like, people come in like, oh, they're going to test me on how to pitch their product. And if I don't get it right, I'm not going to get the job. I'm like, I get that you don't know how to sell our product yet. So I want to see ways that you could evangelize something, that you could be excited about something that requires zero like pre-thought at all. Something that no one knows better than you, your own thoughts and opinions about something that you like.
So we have segued into interviewing and how to be successful. And you are in the process of interviewing candidates for to be on your team. We had talked and you had said that about 95% of your interviewing is behavioral questions. And keep me honest. Okay. So maybe it's 95% of your questions. And I guess that is one of them, right? Like talking about passions and selling you on something. Any thoughts on the high level, like the purpose of behavioral questions, and then maybe a little more on other types of questions and how to answer? I just nested a bunch of things in there, but maybe we could start
Let's unpack it.
Let's try and unpack all of this. Like how much of your interviews are really behavioral questions, and what's the purpose behind those questions?
Yeah. At Absorb, they are like 95% behavioral based questions. Okay. That's a standard that we have across talent, across our company. So you will see it everywhere. My personal style before coming to Absorb, maybe like 50-50 behavioral and other types of questions, but like I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
So with behavioral questions, what they usually are like, tell me a time when, tell me about how you would do this. Tell me of a time where you succeeded at something. Give me an example of. And the point of those questions is to give us an idea of whatever the topic is of how you would handle similar situations at our company. So some example questions. So here's some answers to the test from our screen. Tell me a time when you were given instructions on a task or a project and you either didn't understand the instructions or you didn't agree with them. How did you handle that? I'm asking because I want to understand like what you do if you don't agree with what your boss says, or your boss is not a great communicator and you don't understand. I want to know how you handle that kind of tension in the workplace, because I want to get an idea of like, if we went into those situations, how we productively work through that together. I don't expect everyone to agree with me. I hope everyone doesn't, because then we're not probably getting better at what we do. But it's how we handle those things as grown-up adults. I was going to say grown-ass, but grown-ass adults.
I'm a grown-ass man.
Yes.
I feel like that's from a show.
I'm not remembering what, but yeah.
But it was a comedy. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I want to know how you would handle those things.
Yes.
And the challenge I've had in my own interviewing process right now is when people don't give me specific examples and they kind of generally talk around it. That for me is a red flag. I get that it takes some time to think about it, but honestly, like, hey, give me a moment. Okay, cool. Ready. Just take a second. That's totally fine. If you're taking like a minute to think, that's probably a problem, but just start like getting into it and don't overthink it too much. I think the problem is like, I've had people like, oh, well, I think I generally handle conversations, if I don't understand instructions, I usually just ask for people to repeat it, and just find a way to get the job done anyway. I'm like, cool, but I asked you, tell me a time when you like got instructions you didn't understand or didn't agree with and how you handle it. And you just kind of told me like what you think I want to hear, which is, oh, I'll just do it anyway. I'm like, well, I don't believe you because that's not an actual example. I get a lot out of you actually storytelling. Storytelling gives me an idea of how you're thinking about it. And also you communicating that is like giving me an idea of how you would also explain things and storytell to prospects as well.
Yeah. And by you sharing this example, now the audience can think on their own actual stories and their examples. And the key is, like you said, having a legitimate story and example rather than saying, oh yeah, I'm good at resolving conflict. I do what they said. You can have a specific example. And you were saying like telling it in a way that is concrete and not like so fluffy where you question if it was made up or not.
Yeah, exactly. If you're telling a story of like usually like, hey, I had someone that gave an example of, hey, we were just, I started a new job and we had an onboarding plan that was given to us. And then on the second day, they decided to throw the onboarding plan out the window and just put everyone on the phones. And they figured it would be better. We would just learn as we went along, and we learned the product trial by fire. And that was really difficult. But we did it anyway. And then in our off hours, me and my whole onboarding cohort got together and started studying the product together in the off hours. I'm like, great. One, I agree. That would suck. Like, that's not how I want anyone on my team to start a job. But exactly to like the comment here from Des, like, it's how, like, it's a real example. It's genuine.
I like how you laughed. You were like, it was authentic. You were like, you know, like, this sucked. Like,
yeah,
the way you, and because it was authentic.
Yeah, it was. And I'm like, wow. And like, that really stuck with me. And like, I now remember it. And I've been doing a lot of interviews, you know, and I remember that one because it was like a real story. You want me to remember you a week later.
Yes, being memorable. And you've hit on a few points, like in terms of being memorable, having a strong why, being intentional, and having concrete stories and telling them well. And I've seen a couple candidates that I've worked with that I've mentored and coached that had some bumps in the road where they got a feedback, they got to the final round, but they lost out to another candidate specifically for those reasons. Like, oh, the why could have been stronger, or VP doubted their actual experience because the story was a little too fluffy. So just to validate, like, I mean, these specific things can make or break someone getting their dream job or losing out in a flooded market.
Yes, 100%. And it is a little like interview recruiter hokey, but usually like around behavioral questions, recruiters will give you a tip of the STAR method with your answers. So this is something I would think through.
Yeah. STAR
stands for situation, task, action, result, and role. Yep. So what the situation happened, what they were asked to do, then like what action they took, what was the result, and then like what was their role in that. So think through like at least 3 stories that you can bring up in an interview to like challenges you've had, successes you've had, management snafus that you've had, like some classic stuff that you find for interviews, and write down like in 3 sentences, how can you tick all 5 of those boxes? What's the situation? What were we asked to do? Like, how did I respond? What was the result of that? What's the takeaway that I want them to have?
Yes. Yes. So I wanted to ask you about the notorious panel interviews that you have. And that was dramatic. They're not notorious, yes. But like clearly there's different components that it's going to be really helpful for the audience to know about. And you can only share so much, right? Because you have a unique process. However, I forgot that I wanted to ask you about just a couple more like behavioral questions that you think like these are some of these you need to prepare for. Like, tell me at a time you set a stretch goal and achieved it. I'm making that up, but I've seen it a lot. So a couple more that for the audience to prepare for.
Yeah. So a lot of people are going to ask about like how you work in like a remote environment or a hybrid environment. So what that looks like. I think I don't like to ask what your greatest weaknesses are, but like a common one is like, what are your greatest strengths? What are your greatest weaknesses? Have a plan for what you're going to say for that and be honest. And this isn't the time of like, my greatest weakness is that I have no weaknesses. Like
my greatest weakness is I'm such a badass that I'm too confident. And sometimes
yes. And I've even like completely frozen on that question. I'm like, I'm a workaholic. And I'm like, but I'm like, that's not a weakness to anyone who wants someone to work hard for them. So think through some answers for that are genuine and honest. And like, what are like, another one is like, what is like a project or an initiative that you were a part of that you brought in an idea that ended up getting executed that led to like that project being successful. Simple. Like, what's something that you do like that you could do? So as far as our interview process, so I don't know how much SDR interview processes do a panel or a slide deck. We are doing it here because
let's talk about that.
Yeah, outbound is a new role for Absorb, and we also like I've traditionally sometimes had some sales exercises in that first screen, and it's a lot to ask of someone that's just getting to know your company. So we are fully moving everything to the panel. And in ours, we have like a 15 to 20 minute slide presentation and then a sales exercise that we do after that. The slides are put together a couple of emails and voicemails that you would send to a prospect and tell us why you want to work here and why you want to be in sales. Pretty simple. It should be like 3 or 4 slides. The email examples we give, like, and I don't mind sharing this because it's like they'd have a few days to prepare it. But like pretend like pick a prospect company, prospect title that you think you might pursue based off of who you see our customers are on our website.
Yeah.
Like what's a first touch voicemail and email you could send them? Simple. The next one is, okay, this is a follow-up email and voicemail. Someone that you maybe talked to once and then said like follow up in 2 months later. Not sure if they even will remember who you are. Cool. What would you email and like call them with? So 2 simple examples. I was even telling a candidate the other day, like, I don't expect most people to like actually have emails that I would want to send. I just want to see what you think to put together, what research you do. Like, I don't care if you chat GPT it. like, I just want to see that you put in some effort, like, and that you thought about it, you know, and that you've put your stamp of like, I would probably send this. But then sometimes I get surprised. I'm like, oh, I like that. Cool. It's less about the content and more of like the initiative that you're taking and like the research that you're putting into it. So like I had someone that like just pitched their old product that they were selling, and had another person that'd be like, okay, so I saw Sony was a customer, so I figured we might want to go after Samsung to like make them a customer because Sony's a customer of yours. So this is what I was thinking. And I'm like, yes.
See, that's
great.
That's smart.
Yeah, it is. So that's what I'm looking for. The sales exercise we do, we intentionally don't tell people what it is ahead of time, but it's basically, and it's not a test. Like a lot of people, like they get freaked out, like, oh, there's an exercise. I'm like, I get that it's scary. I've done it as well. Like, but this is cold calling. I just want to see what your natural instincts are in a selling scenario, but in a situation where you don't need to come in knowing everything about our product. So we intentionally find something else for you to sell. So I'll just say this. A lot of people joke about like the sell me this pen exercise. It's similar to that. So if you've never heard of that, sell me this pen, again, look it up. But think through, what are we looking for in a selling exercise? Usually questions. If you don't know what an open-ended question is, look it up. It's any question that doesn't require only a yes or no answer. Something that's going to require a prospect to like actually give you answers. So I want to see how naturally curious you are, how persistent you are in that exercise, and like what kinds of questions you're asking, how naturally curious you are.
I'm curious, like what led you to be looking for a pen in the first place?
Like,
how long have you been in the market for a pen?
I wanted to remember something and I didn't know how to remember it.
Have you ever bought a pen before? How much did you pay for it? But you know what?
Those are great questions, by the way. I'm like, yeah, I'm actually like the cheap ones versus the fancy ballpoint ones.
Yeah. Like, oh gosh, I made a video once on it. I love that exercise. And Jordan Belfort, you know him, the Wolf of Wall Street, he actually had a good video talking to some university students about the whole point of it being like being curious and asking questions and to celebrate disqualification. Like, what if they don't actually have a need for a pen? Yeah. And they're wasting your time. Like they don't need one. And so that's interesting. And but I'd love your perspective. There's no silver bullet, but do you also, I mean, it's a leading question, but do you also celebrate disqualification?
I do. Like, actually, I was talking with one of my reps last week about like when people say like, I don't really have a need for a pen. I'm like, why don't you celebrate that on the phone with them? Wow, that's amazing. You don't need a pen? Cool. So what do you write with things? I've never heard that. Like, so how do you write things?
That.
What do you use? I'm now going to stop selling you for a moment, and I'm going to make my life all about learning all about you. Talking about themselves.
That was such a good example right there of being curious, and who knows, in being curious, you might actually discover that there is a possibility that they didn't even realize they might want a pen. Yeah, it might be useful. So I love that. That was also great.
Funny anecdote. I think I heard on like a TV show at one point, NASA spent like years trying to develop a pen that writes in space, all to find out the Russians use pencils. Because like they're trying to find like a zero gravity pen that can work for like, and like the Russians are just like, well, we'll just use pencils because they write anywhere, and all you need to do is just sharpen it.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
Yeah,
That's so interesting.
Thing I'm like, yeah, she's like, well, I love pencils, you know, like, you don't need a pen, what do you use? I love pencils, they're the best.
I do love pencils actually.
Yeah.
But and hey, you can erase, like you get happy mistakes, you know. But
you have a sharpener, you can like whittle. Yeah, is that your dad again in the chat?
Yeah, my dad's here. He's enjoying the interview.
Yes,
I love you, Dad. Des is here too. We got a good crew. So okay, so Kim, if you're ever in Naples, Florida, let the big guy, my dad, know, and he'll hook it up.
I love that guy.
More Italian restaurant, but okay. Where were we going next? Do
you want to talk about ChatGPT a little bit?
We got the presentation you mentioned, and like you had said, make it your own, and then I think I might have a few more questions on interviewing, and then we can talk. You say you want to be closed, and we can talk about ChatGPT as well and following up. So there's more to unpack, but first off, the presentation piece.
Yes, presentation. Thank you for remembering.
Presentation.
So unless the slide deck that you are given in a presentation specifically says do not change the branding, you should design that presentation. And if you're not sure, ask the recruiter, email them, hey, are they okay if I design this a little bit? They'll usually say yes. So like I've had interviews where someone's like, I didn't want to change your branding, and so I just like squeezed everything into these few slides, and like the formatting on the slides looked terrible. And maybe not everyone cares about that, but I've actually found the people that are the least design-minded still notice a bad slide or a slide that they can't read very well or doesn't look good. So even someone that doesn't know how to make a slide look pretty will still judge someone for not having a slide that looks pretty. So on the receiving end, then I'll have people that like completely like throw our slide deck out the window, designed the shit out of something. Like I had someone make these beautiful slides. Their favorite color was purple. And they just like, I don't know if they designed it, they had someone design it for them, but like the slides were these pretty purple flowers and personality. Or like I had a gal today like do a bunch of videos, and so her whole presentation was like pre-made TikTok videos that she put in. And I'm like, we all loved it. Like everyone in the room was like, this is awesome. And the initiative and the creativity showed that intention that we're looking for. I'm like, I would rather you go like on a limb and change it. And like more often than not, like you'll get like, you won't get criticism for it. You'll get praise for taking the effort. If you are worried about like how to do slides really well, ask a friend, ask your family members. Hey, is anyone in this like friend group good with PowerPoint? Or, hey, if you're using PowerPoint for Microsoft Office, they have a design function that will like give you pretty designs as part of the package. Or you can get a free Prezi trial and like use Prezi and like wow the shit out of everyone. It zooms in and out. And all you have to do is plug in text and it looks great. Like all that to say, you should probably like have fun with your slides. Don't put yourself in a box because we're not putting you in a box. And you'll always score points for like being more creative with a presentation.
That is a golden principle, not just for interviewing for jobs, but at any stage of success in your career or life. Risk going outside the box, being innovative and creative. And last week's guest I alluded to before is Victor Antonio, one of the best keynote speakers of our time on sales. I saw him at the National Speakers Association for the first time, and he did a presentation called Preception, like Inception, a presentation and a presentation. And it was like the first ever, according to him, presentation where he had two microphones and he shared his inner voice while also giving like a presentation. And it's like, even at that level, right? He risked trying something different. And you can apply those same things to interviewing for a role like you just described with I think you said the girl who created TikTok videos that showed that she was thinking differently, and it was so intentional. So
yeah, not all of it was like super polished TikTok doesn't actually need to be polished, but like it was the creativity and the boldness. I'm like, man, she could like, I want to experiment with some social selling tactics, and she would not be afraid at all to do that. That's awesome. Like that is exciting to me.
So there's one other thing on the mock sales exercise that could be sell me this pen. It could be sell something else, right?
Yeah.
You had mentioned the importance in our one-off conversation of not jumping into pitching, like, and just being curious. So I just wanted to double click on that, like if anything, like the pitfall to avoid. It seems like that's the main one, but just want to go back to that point real quick.
Yeah. The worst thing you could do in any kind of exercise that's like a sell the pen is exactly what we said, is just start pitching. The best thing you could do at a minimum is start with, cool, what kind of pen do you have today?
Isn't it simple, by the way? It's like it takes the pressure off. Like the answer is simple. The answer is to ask questions. Just
like a fun exercise that like I've had teams of mine do that we like to do that you can like practice with your friends is like practice that you can only answer in questions game.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. Like, and so go ahead. And you know, one of the funniest scenes in 40-Year-Old Virgin. Have you seen that movie?
Yes.
He ends up getting the girl's number, and because he just asks questions and he seems really mysterious.
Exactly. But it like really works.
It
really works. Like just like be that annoying. Like I'm gonna answer every question or every response I get with a question. Like it's amazing. You like challenge yourself. Like, could I go an entire conversation with the only things I say are questions? Like it's powerful what can happen from that. Like, oh, what kind of pen do you have? Oh, how long have you had it? Oh, what do you like about that pen? What would you like to be different? How often do you look at pens? Like, when was the last
time you even want a pen?
Yeah. Why do you use pens?
Our next interview, we can just have it be a bunch of questions and see how far we get.
So, exactly.
But okay, so you said we speaking of questions, we talked about the importance of showing up with pointed, intentional questions about your interviewers, about the company, and if you don't have questions, that's just such a red flag. Now, you also said you want to be closed.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I want to go next. Talk about what does that look like closing in sales interviews?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, it's like this part at the end of the interview where there's nothing left and we've gone through everything. And usually the moderator in an interview is like, cool. Well, any last thoughts or questions before we wrap up? And when they say no, I'm like, oh, it's a bummer. I was hoping you could ask me for the job. Like I just, do you want the job? Or like, I don't know. It's just like, it's just a powerful way to like leave an interview. And when I've had people close me well, like it puts me like, I'm like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I gotta decide if I want to hire this person or not. Like, I'm like, cool. Like, I guess I have to make a decision because like this person just like they told me they wanted the job, and it takes me back in a good way. Like you want me like, thinking about that. Could I actually hire this person? Obviously that's the goal of why we're here, but still. Another thing I think people ask like, oh, well, do you have any like hesitations about me in general? Like that, okay, you're leaning there. That's getting close to a close. But I may not answer that question truthfully at this stage until we've had a chance to debrief. So like any hesitations, I'm like usually like, yep, ain't telling you right now, my HR team would kill me. Or like, I mean, not really, but am I ready to like give you the job yet? Like I don't want to get cart before the horse. So that's leaning in the direction of the close. But
quick thought, Kim, is like just to validate that. I had an interview where I asked that, and I final round, and they said no hesitations. I still didn't get the job. So it does not mean even if they have no hesitations, you're going to get the job. So
if you're not going to ask anything, like, okay, like at least throw that one in there. There are some hiring managers that like want you to ask that question.
And so it's moving in a better direction, but it sounds like we're going to get even closer to the mark in the next one.
Yes. My favorite way. This is not everyone's favorite, but I've told you this before, Chris.
I like this one.
Yeah.
Drum roll.
Yes. I really enjoyed this conversation and I would like this job. What would I need to do to earn this job?
Boom. I
That's
love
it.
that. Direct, authentic, you're
Yeah.
fierce, and
Yes.
you're just asking for what would it
I would
take to
really like
earn
this
it.
job. What can I do?
I want to earn this. I will. It
Yes.
implies I will work for this.
Yes. And I might actually get an answer to that. Like,
Yeah.
what can I do to earn it? Like, it might be the same as hesitations, but it's like, okay, is there something I haven't done yet? Like, they will tell me.
You know what? It's just simple. You're not overcomplicating it and talking in circles, and you're going to have a better shot of getting to the truth. And even like closing a deal, it's like, oh, I want your business.
Yeah.
What's it going to take to
To win
earn
your
it,
business.
and it's the same thing,
Yeah.
and then you'll see the truth, and hopefully it'll come out. But
Yes.
do you have any, feel free to continue to riff on that, by the way.
Yeah. No, I think one, like, other, like, softer versions of that could simply be like, I really enjoyed this conversation. I've really enjoyed getting to know you. What else do I need to know about the process and how to put my best foot forward?
Yes. Something I say is I'm ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
I know I can come in and succeed. I really want this.
Yeah.
How can I earn it? I actually do. I think I prefer your line. Like, I've heard some say, I'm curious, what are the logical next steps? I mean, that sounds a little heady, but it's
in a better direction.
It's in a better direction, but
no, I like it. Also, if you're going to ask that, like, so there's been sometimes when I've had people give me that one, like, I know I could hit the ground running for you, or in my mind, like, I don't think that you could if the interview's gone really bad. So if you're self-aware, look at the faces of the people on the panel as you're saying it to try to pick up how they're feeling about that.
And so you have to know you did a good job. And granted, usually I'm like, hey, I feel confident, and I hope that the candidates out there watching, they're at a point where they feel confident they did a good job. But yeah, you're right. You have to be careful.
Yeah. I'm cautious about being too self-deprecating on an interview. Like, you don't want to, like, completely, like, just dog on yourself. But, like, if you really feel that you've not done a great job, like, that actually could be an in. So I've done that on cold calls where, like, one point, like, I just said, I'm going to be honest, I think I totally, like, bombed this entire conversation. Would you mind if I just, like, gave you one, like, more shot at just a quick one-line pitch of why I'm talking to you? And I just completely broke the fourth wall for the comedy fans out there, like, film fans, like, and just, like, I'm just putting all my cards on the table because
I love that.
Nothing else to lose. So if you think that you haven't done a good job, I would actually love to hear that, because that shows me the self-awareness piece
that you're looking for.
Yes, but I don't want to do it once. I'm not going to continue to say, oh, I've done a terrible job. Oh, I've done a terrible job. Oh gosh, there I go again, doing a terrible job. No, one time, you have a one-time moment to, like, be vulnerable, and you will earn lots of points with me.
I'm laughing, thinking, like, you know what? That sucked. But there is something to be said for I can do better than that. I'd love another shot. I'm a passionate guy, so like I have a lot of energy, and so I have to manage that too, by the way. But so different people are gonna have different styles and personalities. But I love your idea of just being aware, a little self-deprecation, ask for another shot. And I heard a story of a guy that I also had on the channel that it was an in-person interview, but he actually was leaving and they realized he forgot to say something that was really important. And he ran back and said, hey, excuse me, there's one more thing. And he did get the job. Now it's different if you're virtual. What are you going to, get them? Hey, let's hop back on the Zoom, but it's the same idea
afterwards. And maybe even, like, something that has gotten me on in mails is the people that have, like, left me a video or a voice message over LinkedIn. So, like, I would voice message the person afterwards on LinkedIn, like, hey, I forgot to say this. Like, get that out there.
I love that.
So many ways to communicate.
Oh, so good. And so just tying a bow on everything, you just put on a clinic on how to get into tech sales with the job you love. Like, it's amazing. The final piece of this is following up, and I think you use ChatGPT as a part of it. So this is, tell us about that.
Yeah, I'll just show you guys the two top prompts I've used. One is for applications and one's for after interviews. And I've got a few other hacks if anyone wants to talk about it. I want to do like a whole post on this.
Okay, cool. And let us know. And everyone, again, follow Kim on TikTok, but also LinkedIn as well. And any other channels, by the way, that we should be checking out?
Those are the two, LinkedIn and TikTok right now. I have a website, outboundchampion.com.
Oh, okay. I'll link that in the video afterwards, but I love that name, outboundchampion.com.
Thank you. Yeah.
So good.
Yes, I own that URL. It's all mine.
Oh, good for you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so here I've got one of the prompts that I've used. If I'm not sure if I'm still on this stage or not with my screen sharing.
Yeah, we can see you. And feel Des or Scott or Alex, anyone here, thank you all for being here. Throw an emoji in if you could see it, but I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I basically have this prompt except for these 3 bullets right here, but I would have this prompt saved. And then after every interview I had, whether it was talking with whoever I talked to for each individual person, I'd copy this, I'd put it into ChatGPT. Free version works just fine. And I would say, hey, can you help me write a personalized follow-up email to the person who just interviewed me for the SDR role at Absorb LMS. During the interview, we talked about, and I would literally I'd paste this in, I'd change the role, and I would put in, we talked about SDR qualification, how to close and do discovery, and challenges with the team.
And her time at X university, or when she was a farmer. I don't know, just things you learned about them
things
personally.
that.
I don't know. That's so random.
Yeah. And because it's ChatGPT, I'm literally I'm not really caring about punctuation. I'm spending as little time as possible. I'm just we just talked about this, this, and this, and this. You don't even have to do bullets. During this interview, we talked about do a whole run-on paragraph, and then hit enter. It drafts for you a great follow-up email template. And you can even just say after a while, I would learn my tone, but hey, can you make it more casual? Can you make it shorter? I want it no more than 5 lines. And it would start.
I love it. You know what, Kim, this is a breakthrough for me because I'm kind of a perfectionist. I love writing, and I get so caught up in the details. And it's this would just make my life easier and all of our lives easier.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's yeah.
So, even if I wrote I had 3 people on a panel. Hey, can you help me write personalized email follow-ups for the 3 different people? Their names are X, Y, and Z. And it would write 3 different emails for me. Great.
So good.
And so between copy and pasting, taking 20 seconds to write out some random things we talked about, and then it's spitting it out, it's about a minute of time, to give me a custom email. And why this is important is as someone that hires people, if I get an email from someone after an interview thanking me for my time, I remember that. Even more if everyone that was on the interview team gets an email, we all share those with each other. Hey, I got an email. And when they gave a sentence, hey, thanks for your time today, looking forward to what happens next. that's nice, cool. But if they send me more sentences and they reference what we talked about, I'm it's thoughtful.
Yeah,
and that's showing me self-awareness and natural curiosity. It's showing me, hey, they remembered what we talked about.
They want this.
They want it. And then for them to send a different email to each of us, when we share them, we're
yes.
Ooh, they didn't just copy and paste that shit.
That's a good insight, by the way. You guys share, you guys talk, obviously. So
we're on teams.
Do not send the same.
Yeah. We literally, hey, look what I just got. Anyone else get one? We all snapshot it and send it to each other over chat. We're all doing it.
Yeah. This is so good. It's a part of closing, at the end of the day. So anyways.
Absolutely. Yeah. The other quick one I'll show is a cover letter example. So if you're in the interviewing game, it's a big question mark for some people. Should I add a cover letter or should I not? Some job applications require it. A lot of people, especially millennials and Gen Zers, were do I really have to? It's so old school. I say if it takes like 0 time to do it, like I put it in there, especially for those ATS systems that are using keywords to decide whether or not you should be filtered in. They are also including the cover letter in that keyword search. And so what I did was like, you know what? I don't know if it's valuable or not, but if ChatGPT can write a cover letter for me, that all I have to do is copy and paste that into a Word doc and hit save, then it's worth it to me to like, it takes me no time. And in the off chance that it actually helps my application get seen or triggered, I would like that. If no one reads it, it took me 1 minute of time.
Yes.
So this is a prompt that I came up with. It's pretty simple. Can you help me write a personalized cover letter using the following cover letter template, my resume, and job description below? I actually have in my notepad a copy of a cover letter template. You can search and Google for cover letter templates. Most of them are fine and great. I'd literally copy and paste my resume in here. And then I'd have that saved. I'd copy the entire thing and put it into ChatGPT. So it's already filled in except for the job description. Then I go to the application, I quick copy, don't even worry about what all I'm copying, just copy the page on the text select on the job description on the application and post it in here. And in 20 seconds, ChatGPT does a fully customized cover letter for me that talks about me from my job experience and my resume and the job I'm applying for in a perfect cover letter template that I can literally copy and paste into a Word doc.
Oh, this is so good.
Yeah, those are just the top 2 examples I've used it for, but like there's a ton of other stuff I've used ChatGPT for with interviewing, and it's like if you're not using it in your like hiring and job search, like you're wasting you're wasting time. Trust me.
Kim, you just gave us the blueprint to landing a great SDR role at a company that we're excited about. And so if you all got, value out of this so far, just give that like button a love tap because the YouTube algorithm loves that too. And we'll show people who could benefit from the message, share with more people who could benefit from the message. And this is a historic moment for the channel. This is the longest live we've ever done. And we're not done, by the way, because we're going to talk about, succeeding as an SDR. And we'll go as long as you're willing to go. I'm not saying we're going to go 3 hours, but we got to dig into it. This has been unbelievable.
Yay.
And so much value, so much. Oh my gosh. And
for better for worse, these are the actual templates of things.
I mean, this is like, we've never had an interview like this. And I dare I say, I don't know if there's anything like this out there in the YouTube sea. This is amazing. So, and we have a celebrity from the channel. That's what I mean to say. All right, Alex Lee is here. He should be here live. We'd worked together and he got a job at Snowflake as an SDR.
Oh, that's awesome.
He broke in with no experience. I think he was in the mortgage space before. And he actually got promoted to senior SDR in 2 quarters. And he's number 6 of 130 and he's vying for an AE role. So we're going to now talk about what it takes to be successful like that from a VP's perspective, to ultimately, once you get to AE, you're definitely going to be in the consistent 6-figure earners club, which is exciting. So let's break down. We applied all of your tips, Kim. We got our SDR role at a great company. And we're ramping up. Where do we focus? How do we succeed?
Yes, absolutely. So, and Alex, congrats. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, especially like 6 out of
like Snowflake, Snowflake.
That's a big deal. That's a big team. So that's awesome. Number 1 thing is like you need to be the best at something in your SDR org. Like it's hard. Like if you be the best at like quota, the top quota, that's obviously like, that's number 1. And you're making a shit ton of money. But if you've got multiple teams, be the best on your team, be the best call stat person. You make more calls than anybody. You have more conversations than anybody. If you can't be the top, can you be the top 2? And that was always that when I was a first SDR, like me and one other guy were like, we were neck and neck constantly. One of us was top that week, we were duking it out, but like find a way to be the best at something. So that is your like claim to fame and what you get to ride home on in like interviews. And you can use that. That's your one-liner for like interviewing internally or even externally if you're looking at AE jobs outside of your company. So Also, like, it's competitive. There's every other SDR at your company is going to be like going for that same job. So you need something to set yourself apart the same way. Everyone's a great SDR at that company, or everyone's going to say that they are. But like the management of upper management, they can look and see your stats. They're going to ask your manager or your director, like, what you actually do. So be honest, but also like be known for being the best at something, because like that it's just going to stand out. Two, if you've had a great relationship with your account executives, now some people, even people I've worked with, have gotten annoyed from this, but if you've got great relationships with them, get them to recommend you. Ask them to write a recommendation. Anytime that like our SMB commercial sales managers at QuickBase got recommendation letters from AEs for SDRs applying, like they would always like, hey, did you see that like so-and-so just like sent us a letter for so-and-so? Like, I'm like, oh no, I didn't. That's awesome. Yeah, they are amazing. But also sometimes when they send recommendations for people that I probably are like, I don't think they're the right person that's ready yet. It doesn't matter now because like that's first in the AE manager's mind because they got a recommendation. Like,
so this is perfect because Alex and I were talking as he prepares to go to AE, and particularly like you described, he would go to SMB. It probably wouldn't jump right to enterprise AE, even though he's an enterprise SDR. And we talked about building relationships with the AE mentors, learning from them. And you're saying get a letter of recommendation. That's like a very good concrete tip for that Alex or any of us out there can apply. So what does that look like to ask? Let's assume at which I know Alex has a rhythm of communication, bringing value, building relationships. But when you get closer to that time, like how do you frame the ask? What do you ask for?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, you're having like a weekly or biweekly one-on-one with like some of the top account executives you work with. If you're not, you should start. And I mean, just like, hey, ask for time on their calendar or grab time on their calendar. Most people, if it's free, like they'll take it. They'll also appreciate the initiative of you just grabbing time. Anytime I'd have like a rep just out of the blue grab time to like, hey, I'm going to interview for this. I'd love to like pick your brain on it. I'm always flattered. Like, even if they're one of my reps, I'm like, cool. Yeah, I'd love to talk about your career.
Flattery is the best. Like it works, and I've done plenty of it. But it also has to be authentic at the same time. But
yes, be authentic. But it can just be as simple as like grabbing time. And I would have it be like, don't do a Slack or a Teams message. Like, do it on a call because like that means more. But like, hey, I'm thinking about applying for this job. I've got 2 questions for you. Like, where do you think that I would excel at this? Actually, 3 questions. Where do you think I would excel? Where would you recommend I do some work? And would you be willing to like write a note recommending me?
Okay.
So I'm asking for some coaching in that. So just do something for me, like promote me, but also again, stroking the ego, getting the advice. They've clearly been down that road if they're an AE now. So they know what they're talking about to some extent. So like, hey, where do you think I would excel? Where do you think I still need to grow? And then that also gives them an out if they don't think that you're ready. Like, they'll tell you right away versus hemming and hawing around whether or not to recommend you or not. If you say like, where could I grow? If anything, they'll probably like pump you up. Like, no, man, that's awesome. You should definitely go for that. Like, I'd love to help. That's usually what happens. And it's just a simple question, classic coaching call with people you already have relationship with. If you work with a lot of different account executives, then like pick the ones that you've just enjoyed working with the most or ones that have given you feedback before. Usually like the AEs I would hear from the most on stuff like that, just like recency bias. Someone that's recently got a really great opportunity from something that you've sourced is a great person to ask. Or someone that is like closed a deal or just like gotten a lot of wins off of your work. So
yeah, building those relationships is so key. And then going back to our theme of asking, asking for a recommendation and also asking for coaching within it is so key. And it really, it's cool to hear that you would even take an interview with someone who you thought wasn't like, not that they weren't a fit, but maybe they weren't ready. But when you see that recommendation come in, it almost supersedes it. So And so since we have Alex here, I was going to bring up a situation that wanted your coaching on that would be helpful for anyone, I think, trying to go from SDR to AE and particularly around their relationships with AEs. I've noticed in my career when I was an SDR, some AEs really want to be your mentor and want you to succeed, and others are a little more difficult. Alex has one that she's actually a top performer. She's one of the best of the best. And she'll only take meetings with, I think the challenge is with C-levels, and he's selling into enterprise accounts. Now that is very valid because you want to prioritize the key decision makers, but also when he looks at the data, they use Tableau on where other SDRs are setting meetings. A lot of them are data analysts, end users, influencers. And it seems he feels like he's like, how am I going to hit my number when I can she'll only take meetings with the executives. So I just, maybe this is one example of like a opportunity to improve communication and like, because he has metrics to get meetings, but of course she wants to close revenue and wants to talk to the key people. So do you have any thoughts on that type of challenge and how to navigate that?
Absolutely. And it's, that one's tough. It's specifically C-level.
Yeah, it is tough.
I would like just see if you can negotiate like VPs as well.
Yeah.
At a minimum.
Or VPs or directors, right? It's
those are all decision makers. So see if you can negotiate a little bit, or like if you've like really qualified a director really well, be like, hey, would you take a flyer and like take this one call like for me, and just can we see how it goes? If it doesn't go anywhere, all good. I know I won't get credit for it, but like I think you would really find this one interesting. So like one to like see if you can like break in the ice on that. Typically, I agree. Like, there's usually two types of AEs. There's a few people in the middle, but the people that either want to be a mentor or like, dude, I'm doing my own shit, and if you give me something worth talking to, cool. If not, talk to you next week. Like, and they're just very.
Some to riff on that have a negative perception of SDRs as not bringing value. And the reality is like SDRs can bring tremendous value and are lifeblood of the organization, and they're rolling up the sleeves doing the real hard work. But I think like, showing the intention to set qualified meetings and maybe like you said, negotiating to VPs or directors, but making sure like they're qualified, they have some type of influence. You can gather information to bubble up the chain, but I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I would say like a couple things to think through. One, I would try to, if that's the case, I would also talk to your manager. And see at a minimum, if you could get paired with a couple of different AEs and one that is a little less stringent and to pair with this AE as well. So it's kind of a balancing act. So you're not just completely hosed. That's the best way. It's a difficult spot to be in because like, I'm your leader asking you to work with this person. She's holding very strict expectations. The business is telling me that I need to have my reps support these people, but they don't want to be supported. Then you're, as an SDR, kind of at the mercy of like how much your manager or director will fight for you with their manager and director, if they even want to ruffle feathers, and what's the outcome of that. And that's going to take time if it happens at all. Like, so you've got to kind of like go like, I'm going to go to my management and see what I can have happen. But I've also just got to find a way to win on my own in case like no one does anything for me at all. So I would try to negotiate a few things with her. I would like, obviously like for my reps, I'm asking you to qualify to a certain extent. Like I probably would like lean on like, hey, can like if I just get them to agree to a meeting, would you take it? Because otherwise I'm gonna have a hard time like getting a C-level person at a 10,000
at an enterprise company. The level of creativity and like it usually the admin or the what is it, the administrative assistants or gatekeeping the inboxes. So it's freaking hard, and it's such a limited.
A couple other things that I would try. So one, I would very casually, this isn't like throwing anyone under the bus, but like, hey, AE, would you be willing to look at some data of trends of like where the company and where I'm seeing the rest of my team get opportunities from?
Yeah. That's a great point, because he did say they have Tableau data on, and my one piece of advice was don't come across like I'm right, you're wrong, and a know-it-all.
100%.
But the way you just framed it was like, would you be open?
Yeah.
Like it was humble.
Because like the reality is, Alex, you're probably right. But like, and you're right. Like I just knowing like C-level person at enterprise, like I'm just trying to think through the number of VPs I was able to like book qualified meetings with.
Kim, one quick thing is like when I was at Google Cloud, we had a CEO of like, I don't know if it was like HP's talk to us. And he said, I will never take any meetings unless it's a warm intro. So it's like, that's how hard, like
the number of C-level people at the companies that I've worked for that have told me, Kim, I hate cold calls. Why should your department even exist?
Yeah.
Is crazy. Like
yeah.
C-level people hate cold calls. They're not going to take them.
Yeah.
Like they're going to take a call that their person underneath them has vetted for them.
Yes.
So yeah, I would, and it's like, you're right, but you need her to be open. If someone's ever come to you and be like, you're wrong, you're immediately,
that doesn't work.
Yeah. You're immediately defensive. So you what's an easier ask? What's something that's easier to say yes to? Looking at some data. I would also be fair to her or him, like, and look at who are the titles of the people that they are closing deals with, who are the champions in their deals.
Yeah.
And if they're only closing deals with C-level people, cool. But that could be also something like, hey, I'm seeing you're working with a lot of directors. If I got you this title with like these criteria qualified, could we please book that meeting?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to ask, but it's like, it's how you're phrasing it. And you're trying to say yeses with showing facts. People can't deny facts. You've got Tableau. That's real data. So
good. Yeah. Thanks for your insight there. And so we hit on a key component of like succeeding and getting promoted, which is building relationships, getting endorsements, and obviously in that process, resolving kind of challenges in SDR to AE relationships to open up success. Now, we know you need to hit the numbers. And when we spoke before this interview, you had some great thoughts about just basically my takeaway is make it happen, like have conversations, be resourceful, figure out how to get the contact information, make calls. And so can you speak to, I'm just going to let you run with it. Like that component of success as an SDR.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I forget something that we've talked about, feel free to toss it in there. But one, I have activity call stats that I manage my team to most every SDR.
Please tell us. That's so insightful.
Yes. Hi, Bella. Oh, I love her. She
wants to hear about the call stats. She's like,
I know.
This is insider information.
Yeah, she loves call stats.
Oh, she's tired.
So good.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
So our call stats are 60 dials, but here's the thing: 60 dials a day. That is the floor, not the ceiling.
Yes.
So if you are hitting your quota on whatever it is at your company, opportunities created, pipeline, revenue, whatever it is, you should still be hitting 60 dials a day if you're hitting everything you need to be hitting.
Like bare minimum. It's like you said, I'm going to repeat that. It's the floor.
It is the minimum of what you should be doing. Not that like, I've just got to try to get to 60. Like, I could bust through 60 dials in like an hour and a half, really trying to hit those dials. If I was fake dialing or just like dial and hang up, which some SDRs don't do that'll get you fired quick. Like I could do that in 20 minutes. So like, what are you doing all day in an 8-hour day? Like you could be making more than 60 dials unless you're actually, if you are running on all cylinders and you're booking a shit ton of meetings and qualifying everything, like 60 dials is a stretch. But you're also setting yourself up for more meetings. If you're not getting meetings, what are you doing? Like you should be prospecting, you should be calling, you should be social touching, you should be doing all of the things. So like reverse engineer, how many conversations does it take for you to book a meeting? Okay, how many calls does it take you to have a conversation? Like usually there's a dashboard somewhere at a minimum. Sales Loft and Outreach and Apollo have stats that show you how many calls you made and how many people you talked to. Like do it yourself if your manager hasn't. Like how many conversations does it take you to book a meeting? Cool. Well, it takes me 10 conversations to book a meeting, but it takes my buddy next door 5. So I got to figure out what he's doing that I'm not doing that's booking him more meetings.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, but I also need to make more calls then in the meantime. So
so this always comes up, the best artist steal, and you hit on a key insight of who's doing well, what are they doing, replicate that success. And shout out to some of your alumni, I believe, meaning like former reports. We have Zach Watson and Frank Santana, right?
Yes,
and they created, shout out guys, and they've got their own great TikToks too, by the way. There's something about these QuickBase alumni that have some great.
They taught me how to use TikTok.
Yeah, I love that. And so they mentioned to me the Dial High Club, and they were going crazy. I don't know if they hit like 200 dials some days.
On the regular.
I mean, something like that.
Yeah. So they would they did this thing where like they gave a commitment of how many dials that they would hit in a given day and in a week. And they owed the rest of the people in the group $1 per dial that they missed from the goal that they set for themselves.
Unbelievable. I'm putting money on the line. Raising necessity.
Yeah. So like they ended up eventually, I think, median going to 120 dials a day. So like double the minimum expectation. And so then anything over that was like just like great, basically. But like their average was to at least double the dial requirement.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So other things you can be doing though, like it's not just dials, but like, hey, if you've already called all of your tasks today and you only had 40 call tasks, call them again. Like call them in the afternoon.
Okay, so 2 times in one day.
Yeah. Yeah, you can call twice in one day. If they didn't pick up, like just only drop voicemails on the first ones. Like, I don't know.
I love that. Yeah. And the double dial, I did this at Oracle, and I encourage people to say that in their interviews. Like you mentioned, not telling a hiring manager or VP, I'll make 100 calls. Well, I'm also not afraid to do the double dial, which is the classic. I know you know it. The audience probably does, where you call, it goes to voicemail, and then you call again, and they're probably going to think, hey, this is important. I actually used the double dial in my personal dating life. I met a girl a couple weeks ago, Alyssa, and she seemed cool, and she was busy, and she wanted to hang out last weekend. My mom and sister were visiting, and I said I can't hang out, and then I decided to call her. And I called once, she didn't pick up. I did the double dial.
Yes.
And then she picked up. And
locked it in.
Still haven't booked the meeting. She's too busy working 3 jobs. But shout out to Alyssa. Yeah. Anyways, but the double dial is
it's so good. That's the hard part about people in our jobs is like dating. Like you either like really apply all of the skills and like it can annoy the shit out of people, or for me, I'm like I just like hate it, like because it's just my entire life.
Yeah, no, it definitely spills over to my life, and
totally.
I've done a little bit of a stand-up comedy. I know you have like the theater background and everything, just to get out of my comfort zone. And I did like some shticks on how, unfortunately, the sales spills over into dating, and it's hilarious.
I mean, if you have any recordings of any of your stand-up, let me know. I've been doing improv for the last like year and a half, and it's been amazing. Yeah,
I'm gonna send that to you, and who knows, we could probably in the future do a fun like a little skit. We should do some creative content together. So I would love to do that.
100%, please. Yeah, cool. I love it.
So this has been so amazing, and I feel like so complete in the sense that like we've covered so much.
Yeah.
And it's like I just feel very like, wow, I'm gonna rewatch this. I know the audience out there. I saw Scott. He said she has me so excited to go back and take more notes. This is going to be so helpful for me transitioning to tech sales from my medical background. Thank you, Kim. However, guys, we got to hit on cold calling.
Yes.
Come on. Like maybe we could bring it home with some cold calling and some of your scripting and your approach. So people come away with some actionable tips that they can apply in their mock cold call role play interviews, and if they're in the job itself. And if you want to hit on anything else, we can, but this has just been, I feel spent in the best of ways. So let's do some cold calling for starting out with. First of all, if you have any mindset tips, on the importance of cold calling and anyone who has reluctance overcoming it, and then we'll start with an opener.
Yeah. So one, just if you're in a bad headspace, like go on a walk, look out the window, do something to like just breathe in and out, call a friend, do something to like get in a hopeful place, because you will take that with you. Like if you were in your mind like, this is going to be like really rough, it's going to be really rough, like just because you're already thinking that. So find a way, even if you're like, I want to have fun at this, that's still great. It's better than otherwise. So
I love that.
I would, just find a way to like be hopeful. Some ways that I've done that, and I've encouraged others to do that, is like if it's not your first week as an SDR, sorry, I'm getting some pings from the Vegas folks. If you hear
Yeah, tell them it's my fault.
Oh,
Like,
good.
thank
No,
you
this is
so
great.
much because you're in Vegas. You're gonna have a great night tonight.
Yes, yeah, so fun. But this is so worth it. But like if you've had really good calls before, like go and listen to those, or at least if you don't have call recording set up, like go and like look through your notes in Salesforce or in your engagement tool from the conversations you've had when you like booked a meeting or you were just kicking ass, to remind yourself,
Yeah, I love that.
you are good at this job. I've won before, I can win again.
Yes.
Yes. And it's like the best time to win is when you've just won. It's like the only way to kind of like superficially kind of recreate that.
Talk about coming full circle with, you know, that the theme that we talked about in the beginning of like capitalizing on your winning, you know, and just channeling that inner badass. So.
Yeah, you need to like pump yourself up, and
Yeah.
like that's a like talk to some friends, or even like I remember at times like my first SDR job, we'd have like a team huddle like right before call blitz. I'm like, guys, I haven't booked a meeting in 2 days. I'm like, I'm dying over here. Just that like cathartic release of it. Like it would never fail. At every time that I'd do that maybe once a quarter. I'd come back and have like a couple of callbacks on my phone, just from like just putting it into the universe, but like trying to like
getting callbacks.
Yeah. I'm like, that's awesome. Or email replies, you know, and like, so just releasing it versus like just trying to ignore it is the best thing you can do. Like, I'm acknowledging this and I'm moving past it. Some mindfulness tactics, meditation tactics. Yes, I am freaked out, but I'm putting that to the side because I can do this and I'm good at my job.
Okay, final thing before we finish up with the cold calling flow or script. You take your team through a meditation and team meetings. As I said, you're the type of manager or the leader that I would want to work for, and that's just one thing that I think is awesome. Why do you do the meditations and team meetings?
Yeah, one, I've been in therapy for years. I'm an emotional hot mess, so I'm very aware of that. I had a mentor and a former boss of mine once tell me, Kim, if you're going to manage people well, you need to learn how to manage your own heart well.
Ooh, love that line.
Yeah. So doing meditation is something that I need to do for myself, just to like recenter my own mind and just release. And it didn't happen overnight. But I've been using Headspace for a few years now, and it's just a great way, like guided meditation, to like just be present and be in the moment. And as I started doing that in my health and fitness life and like on my own and finding value of just like letting things go, I just saw so much value from it. I'm like, you know what? I want to share this. So I've done it with my last couple of teams. I'm just starting to do it here at my new job. Basically every Monday we start our usual kind of, hey, this is the beginning of the week team huddle, starting with 5 minutes of meditation as a team. Guided meditation. I throw on my Headspace. I share my screen, and we all meditate together. Half the groups usually like never done it before, and it's like, this is a little strange, but like there's so much value in like clearing the mind. We're starting our week with a fresh slate. All the worries from last week, all the things from the weekend, we're just putting aside. We're starting fresh right here, right now, present.
Well, I feel present right now, and I'm picturing I did my meditation. I'm in the moment, and I'm ready to pick up the phone.
Yes.
And I'm entering from a place of presence, putting out good energy. And so maybe we could do as if I know it's new, but like absorb software, you know, through that lens of like, say, I pick up and then go from there. And maybe we could start with like how you open it up and begin the call. So I'll ring, ring, ring. Hello.
Hi, Chris. Is this Chris Bussing?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, great. This is Kim from Absorb LMS. Can I like have a moment to tell you why I'm calling?
Yeah, sure. You could have a minute.
Yeah, perfect. A whole minute. Thank you. That's great. Well, I work with other learning and development leaders like yourself, helping kind of change and simplify the way that we do e-learning. And I'd love to tell you about how we're working with people like yourself. Would you mind if I told you that?
Yeah, sure. You could. It sounds interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure what kind of learning management system you guys might be using, how you are doing remote learning in the kind of a changing world, but we are one of the top LMS providers in the enterprise space. We work with a lot of customers like Sony, like Samsung, and I want to just talk to you about like how we've really reduced admin time and through employee engagement. Before I kind of talk you through that, what kind of LMS system are you using today?
Oh yeah, I'm using XYZ Learning.
That's great. I've heard some really good things about them, actually. How long have you been using them?
Well, we've been using them for a bit. It was a part of the original implementation. It's been about 10 years.
Wow, that's amazing. 10 years, like going strong. I love that. How have you seen XYZ LMS kind of adapt through like the last decade?
Well, I mean, things have been moving to the cloud, and they've been chugging along to make that change. And I mean, it's been a little rocky with the transition. Not
Yeah.
sure if they're the most innovative, but they've been a good partner.
Yeah. No, that's, I think a lot of LMS companies have struggled with that. I totally get it. One thing that's pretty cool about Absorb LMS is a couple of years back, we completely rewrote our entire technology to basically just like remove any tech debt that we had and have a stronger footprint moving forward. So I'm curious, like you said, there's been some bumpy roads. Could you tell me like what have some of those bumpy roads look like?
Yeah, when they transition to the cloud, they're making some changes on the back end. We had some outages, and it impacted our customer experience.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Like what did that customer experience impact look like?
Well, there were end users who couldn't use the technology. They couldn't abide by their learning plans and meet their deadlines and their goals for training and development, and it actually set us back in a lot of ways.
Oh man. Oh gosh. And how many people are you supporting?
About like thousands of people.
Wow. Yeah. So when you say like a couple of people were impacted, I'm gonna guess like a big chunk.
Yeah, I guess it's more than a couple for sure.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, hey, I know like this is probably not a call you expected to take today, but we've already moved everyone to the cloud. We have a really strong track record with large companies, helping just like ease some of that transition. We have like 99.9% like uptime. We don't have downtime events at our company.
Oh, interesting. I mean, that's great.
Yeah. And I can send you some of our trust radius and G2 reviews. Like we have some of the best customer success and support in the market right now. It's insane. We are here to support our customers through any of those like kind of ups and downs that are happening within your own organization. So would you be open to like, I don't know, seeing the product maybe sometime later tomorrow?
Well, all right, we're moving fast here. I could I think I could find a window at 4 p.m.
Yeah. I don't want to rush you into anything though. So 4 p.m. would be great. I'll take it. To make the most of that time, I'm curious, like, what kind of initiatives are you working on right now around learning and development progression in your team?
So we have we're revamping one of our current learning and development programs for our mid-level leaders.
Yeah.
And we're launching a new learning and development program for our entry-level SDRs.
Oh, cool. That's great, man. I love working with SDR teams. They're so impressionable, and yeah, that's amazing. Okay. Well, to not waste your time, like what would be the most important thing to see on a demo that would like get you excited to actually show up to the meeting and then potentially want to talk more?
I would say the ease of use in creating new curriculums and adjusting curriculums that are in flight, just the interface, ease of use. Like we don't have a super technical staff. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. No. And why would you? You're not in IT. You're a learning professional. So that makes total sense. Well, yeah, I can totally get into that. Great thing. Any SCORM files you have with current trainings, do you have would like be able to reuse here. You wouldn't have to recreate anything in your current like learning stack. Also, we've got a new AI piece where you can actually use generative AI to create content in like seconds, which is amazing. So
oh my gosh, I've been hearing so much about generative AI. We haven't done a lot with it. We want to do more because we know it's a big buzzword, but
it's super buzzy. But I will show you, like when I saw this, I was like, is that possible? Like I typed in 2 sentences and an entire curriculum was developed for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds, I mean, I am interested. So 4:00 tomorrow, and
Cool.
you know what, I might bring on my senior development manager that rolls up to me and another peer from the organization to get their eyes on this. This is interesting.
Cool. That sounds great. And yeah, I'd probably make sure I have your email. Go from there.
And then set the meeting. Do you accept the invite? That was awesome. And by the way, like, let's finish off by like looking at the game tape and like reviewing what worked. And one is, I mean, clearly you have a really good knowledge of your product to know that even the back end infrastructure that you were cloud native or like you I mean, that so here's the thing, is like you put in work to get there, and any SDRs out there are going to need to put in that work. You were so smooth with like easing in, getting incremental yeses, and not like pitching and to start, right? And you got me, you made me comfortable, and just continue to share. I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of the other nuances of what you did there that made that work.
Totally, yeah. And I'm even like was critiquing myself as going like, oh, I could have said that differently. Oh, could have done that differently. Yeah. But like we all do. It's part of the game.
You're self-aware.
Yes, exactly. And we're all learning. We're all like practicing. But like my intro is very intentional. We've talked about this before. I'm trying to find incremental yeses to have a conversation. There's some reps that will see like, oh, why are you asking for time? And why are you like telling them what you want to tell them and asking again? I'm doing it very intentionally, because on the receiving end, when someone's like, hey, Kim, I'm selling a sales engagement platform and we do X, Y, and Z and we're all this. I'm like, I don't know who you are. Stop talking at me. I want to hang up the phone. Like when you give too much too soon, it's a big turnoff.
Yeah.
So psychologically, like I'm trying to make like similar to the in-mails of like, hey, like, could you connect me in the right spot? Like it's an easier ask. I'm trying to find easier asks to ease into a conversation. Like, hey, could I have a couple moments? Awesome. We do this. Can I tell you about that? Cool. I don't care if you say yes or no. If you say no, I'm probably going to tell you the next thing anyway. Like it's just gauging where you're at, and I'm easing into the conversation so that like I can ask bigger questions. And then after I give kind of a pitch, hey, we do this, like, and blah, 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 but I want to turn to you. I want to ask something about your job that's like, I'm not asking about selling something. I'm asking something that's easy for you to answer that you might actually want to answer, because people like to talk about themselves. What kind of LMS are you using today? What are some of the projects that you're working on right now? It's moving away from the selling aspect to gather information so that I can then use that to like come on board and like pitch something with what they've told me. The other piece is when they tell me what they're using, I'm praising it. Oh, great. Love XYZ LMS. Awesome. I'm not going to be like, oh, dang it, or I'm not going to bad talk it. I'm just going to say that's great. I'm going to affirm that decision. And as I did, I find out he helped implement it 10 years ago.
See, I threw that in intentionally. You got to be, you don't want to call the baby ugly, or like, if that's the term, right? If I was responsible for the implementation of the technology, you don't want me to feel like I made a wrong decision. So that was really good.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, cool. I didn't bad talk it, and it's a good thing I didn't. But then in my mind, like 10 years, I've been doing research on our own product. And for the SDRs out there, I've worked here for like 6 weeks. I've not worked here that long. So like, I'm just
That's amazing that you ramped up so quick to be able to, and by the way, you're leading SDRs, and the fact that you roll up your sleeves and you could literally go out there and crush it with the cold calls. Like you're doing it yourself. That's very cool. I respect that.
Thank you. Yeah. But in my mind, that 10 years, I'm like, technology has changed so much in the last 10 years. And so like, how do I get him to tell me something instead of like, whoa, 10 years, oh, it must be getting old. I'm like, no, I'm like, oh, wow, 10 years. How has that journey been for the last 10 years? how is their technology adapted with you? I'm like hinting there, I'm opening a door, but I'm just like, I want him to go there. Maybe they've done a great job. And if they have, he'll tell me that. And then I could just fall back and be like, oh, cool, that's great. You know, a lot of our customers were using them too. They were actually struggling to like maintain their own growth with some of the admin challenges there. I don't know if you've experienced that. Sounds like you haven't, but like, how have you overcome that? So I'm going to drop a pain that I know someone else has had and try to do it.
And you did that in a way that was just, you didn't assume, but then they're like, you know what, we actually face that too.
Yeah.
And then there's a little bit of an opening to have it dig a little deeper into the pain, and it's a good reason for another deeper conversation. Yeah. And go ahead.
Oh, and then I'm just trying to like drop in, like, as you're saying stuff, I'm trying to active listen by like, I'm like dropping some nuggets about us as we go along, but then turning it back to you with a question.
Yeah, you threw in the AI capabilities. Like you could have just set the meeting, but you threw in like an extra like little proof point to reinforce some value. And that actually now makes it more likely that I join the next meeting, which is key. Like you want to avoid the no-shows. And so, I mean, and the fact that you took the conversation longer and did discovery instead of just anchoring to try and set the meeting too soon will highly increase the chances that they show up. Totally. The final thing I wanted to call out is you threw in some humor. Like I said, you got a minute and you're like, oh, a full minute.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was tongue in cheek and it was funny.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm like, have fun with it, you know? Like, worst thing that happens is you don't ever talk to that person again.
Yeah, and also they could like hang up on you and be pissed, and then you could call them like a month later or even less, and they forgot who you were, or you talk to someone else who's even higher up or a key decision maker, and that's the beauty. It's like failure isn't permanent in this business, and if you can have fun, like you said, then the sky's the limit. And
a month later, that person would not remember you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So. A month later, people will remember this conversation, though. This has been amazing. Yes. And the final thing, I mean, it's just I can't help it. Like
that's good.
Last thing, and then we'll close up with some calls to action. It's just objection handling. I feel like you had some funny examples in the past, but like, I'm not interested is one, and we know that's kind of a BS brush off. Yeah. But maybe we could look at like one or two, like I'm not interested. We're using a competitor. You already kind of hit on the using the competitor because you almost flattered it and asked about the experience. But how about I'm not interested, that brush off?
Yeah, well, that's great. I think one quick plug for SDRs on the call, when you hear that, I'm not interested, I want you to like think back on that and think in your mind, okay, look at the timestamp on your call, wherever you're dialing from. Okay, we've been talking for 2 minutes. We've been talking for 60 seconds. Between me and them, who knows more about my product, me or them? How much has this person actually heard anything that I have said up to this point? Probably like 20 to 50% generously. So within 60 seconds for them to say they're not interested when they were only 20% listening to what you've had to say and they don't know anything about your product is completely ludicrous. It's just they don't want to talk to you. They flagged you as a salesperson. Anyone that's saying they're not interested, I'm like, not interested in what? You've not even heard what I've had to say.
Yeah.
Like, so obviously I'm not responding that way to the prospect, but like for me, I needed to have that realization as an SDR to like have the moxie and the gumption to be like, I'm going to find a way around this.
Yeah. Hang in there is what I remember from our last interview is like, don't hang up on yourself. Get one more question in or you know, oh, sorry. Like maybe I'm not getting to the point, but go ahead.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like I'm not interested. I'm like, oh, okay. That's totally fair. I typically like talk to people in learning and development because they're usually running the LMS. So could you explain for me, like, what are you focused on, I guess, in learning and development?
Boom.
Sidestepping it. Like they may not answer, but more than half the time they will. It's like, oh, okay, cool. You're not the right person. No big deal. I usually talk to people in your title because they do this related to my product. What do you do? I don't want to ask, hey, what does your day-to-day look like as the opener to my initial pitch because I haven't earned the right to ask that yet. But when they're telling me they're not the right person or they're not interested, that's the best time to ask. And you're giving them context to why you're asking.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. They're telling you they're not interested. You're like, oh, I want to basically say, like, why are you not interested? But I need to give context around that. I need to like find a way for them to want to answer that with that's not defensive.
Yeah, good point. So framing that you do talk with people like so-and-so and like, what's your
Yeah.
responsibility? And maybe they'll be like, yeah, that is me. Or, and then you're like, oh, well, okay, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
So,
Or that could be a good time to, if you know that you flubbed the pitch or something, like, oh gosh, totally. Okay. I really messed up that pitch though. I hear you're not interested, but like, can I try again? I just want to make sure, like, I want to make sure I'm communicating well. Like that humble approach.
yeah,
Like sometimes
it's like, I really believe I'm just coming off the gut, like in what our ability to help customers like you. And I just don't want to do us both a disservice. And I
if someone said
flopped.
that
Like,
to
can I
me,
have one more shot? Like, so
I love what you just said there, Chris. Like that's awesome. Like, hey,
yeah,
do us a disservice.
that, you know what? I like that line. And I forgot. I used to use that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And be like, okay. When we say something like that, people are like, honestly, I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah. And you know what? Because I remember even at Google Cloud when I was new, like I kind of botched, like, okay, a CEO, like I had an amazing email that he called me back in response. And he said, why would I use Google Cloud? They're on AWS. And I just I felt like I botched it. And I'm like, and I used that like, you know, Mark, I don't want to do your business and our business a disservice by trying to ramble on, tell you how great we are. I'd rather set up a follow-up. And so.
Yeah, no, finding ways to go around that. It's like, it's an objection. The only way you're going to get them to go somewhere is by getting them to pause for a moment and actually listen to you.
Yeah. So one more objection that you think is really common, and I know we already talked about, like, we're on another vendor. It could be that vendor.
Yeah. And I tied in, I'm not interested and I'm not the right person. I think that's one's pretty similar. And it's interchangeable. I would also say, like, I'm in a meeting right now, I guess is a common one. And for me, that one's just so basic. But again, for a lot of newer SDRs, no one picks up their phone today when they're in a meeting. From a number that you don't recognize. Like, so just
like if I'm in a meeting, I don't even have my phone with me.
I screen my calls. And I do look at my voice messages for the record. Like, for people and numbers that I don't recognize, I go through at least once a week and like go through my, like, at least the visual voicemail and like read the transcripts of who's called me. And the numbers that I remember calling me a bunch, I remember them for the next one they call and I pick that one up. If for nothing else, then to get them to stop calling me. But like, those are the ones I'm looking at. So people that don't leave voicemails, I do read them. If you have my mobile number, I'm actually looking at your voicemail. So if you're not leaving me one, I'm never going to call you back. But two, I am like looking to see who I want to pick up on. And I'm intentionally like, hey, there's that number again that keeps calling me and leaving me voicemails. I'm not in a meeting right now. I'm going to pick up. And I do take cold calls. So I would just like know, like, if people are telling you that, they're lying to you. And so the best thing you do is like, okay, cool. Well, I'll keep this brief. Go to the pitch.
Go for it.
Yeah. I would also say, like, when people say like, oh, we're doing that already, we're doing that in-house. I would love to ask what they're doing in-house or how long they've been doing that, because that could mean so many different things. Again, I don't think that they know what I've actually pitched them. So
seek to understand and ask questions, and your team's going to be pissed at me. But final thing I think is like a voicemail. Like, do you keep it simple and crisp? Like, if they don't pick up,
I give like a couple of I've got a couple of different versions, a shorter one, a longer one. There's like, hey, this is Kim calling from Absorb again. Call me back. That's it. Like, trying to.
She sounds so sweet. I'd be like, she sounds nice. Like, I don't want to talk to her.
Thank you. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's where I also have like a phone voice that's intentionally a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Nicer.
It's not too high. There's a different. That's a different range where it's like, oh boy. So,
yeah. It's like I'm blending my head voice and my chest voice intentionally. But I'm like, I want to sound like they're expecting my call. Like, hey, this is Kim from Absorb again. Give me a call back. They may not call back, but there's the off chance they're like, okay. And I've gotten a couple of these where she said that. Do I know her? I'm going to call her back. Other ones, if I'm giving more detail, hey, the reason why I'm calling is to talk to you about your learning management system needs this year and where our ease of administration could help you out. Give me a call back. I'm not saying, hey, I'm calling to follow up. Hey, I'm circling back. Hey, I'm checking in. You're just like, everyone is doing that. Everyone that's leaving a voicemail is, hey, Kim, I'm following up with the blah, blah, blah. Hey, Kim, I'm checking in on the blah, blah, blah. Hey, Kim, I'm circling back on my email that I sent you about blah, blah, blah. As soon as I hear that, I'm like, and delete. So I'm like, give me something different. Why are you calling? You're not calling to check in. And I get this from John Barrows. If anyone like JB Sales, Sell Better, like, you're not calling to check in. You're not calling to touch my base. You're not calling to circle around. You're calling to sell me something. So just say that.
Just say it, guys. And I'm going to just say it. This is maybe I would say this is the greatest interview you've ever had on our channel. Like, are you kidding me? This was just years of experience packed into one interview that in this interview alone can help people get jobs and get promoted. Okay. I think I'm going to feature this on my main video on my site for new people coming to the channel and people that are visiting as a call to like, so first of all, thank you so much, Kim.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like you were in Vegas with your new team and they're going to be pissed at me, but blame it on me. You're going to join them soon and celebrate. But guys, follow Kim B Sales on TikTok, connect and follow Kim on LinkedIn. Check out outboundchampion, right? .com.
Yep, that's
all right. I love that name. And are there any other channels to follow? And then any other final, either like words of encouragement or calls to action?
Yeah, no, those are the channels. I have personal Instagram.
Cool. What is it?
Yeah, Kim Janelle B is my Instagram.
Janelle.
My dog Abby, rest in peace, has a great channel.
Yeah.
The Bulldog Abby at the Bulldog.
This Kim and I spoke before. This was dedicated to Abby, and like, man, this is so random. I don't know if you follow football, but like Brett Favre, his father passed away, and he had one of the greatest games of his career. And it's like that's what this type of thing. So
thank you. Yeah, I know who Brett Favre is. Yeah, Packers. So, maybe I'm trying.
It again.
Packers? Did he?
Yeah. No, you're right. Yes.
I nailed that.
And my dad showed up today. My mom showed up.
That's so special. Yes.
And what a community. Thank you to everyone who's still with us. 11 people that went the distance. The number went up and down the whole time. But like we had just so many people show up. Thank you to the people who see this as it floats out in the YouTube. See to your success in tech sales and in life. Happy selling and happy living. And we'll see you in the next one. Kim, thank you so much. And Bella, she loved it.
Yes. Bye, Bella. Thank you for joining. Thanks, everyone.
All right, y'all. See ya.